What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Beyond the Tape, and the collab mock draft series keeps rolling on. And today we are joined by co-host of the PFF College Football Pod, one of the sharpest guys in the biz, and one of my favorite guys to get to talk to every time I bump into him, and a fellow Steelers fan. What more could I ask for? Max Chadwick. Max, welcome to the program, man. Great to have you back on.
Teach, thanks for having me on, man. It's always awesome seeing you down there in Mobile for the Senior Bowl every year. Love what you guys are doing with the channel right now. I've tuned into as many as can. I watch Dalton one, even though I try to avoid hearing Dalton speak as much as I can, considering I have to do it twice a week with him. But no, man, it's awesome being on with you again. I'm really excited to do a 2-round mock. I think again with you. I think we did one last year too. And this year's draft, it feels way more wide open, so it should be pretty fun today. Yeah,
we had you on for a 2-rounder last year, and then we did defensive line rankings in the summer.
Right.
And, it's funny because we both liked the edge group over the summer conversations, but like the D tackle class, I remember both of us were kind of like, Peter Woods is a guy, but we don't really love everything else. And I don't think it's like the world's greatest D tackle class, especially after last year's group with Nolan, Harmon, and so on and so forth. But it's this group that, Peter Woods has kind of taken a step back, but everyone else I'm kind of more interested in as top 50 guys versus where I was during the summer. So it is kind of funny how we've come full circle on that.
Yeah, absolutely.
How have you been, man, since the last time we talked?
Yeah, absolutely. Like summer scouting is always so funny because you think you know everything going into it, and then Fernando Mendoza explodes. He's the number 1 overall pick, and Arvell Reese comes out of nowhere. He's the number 2 overall pick potentially, too. So it's always funny. The next year's class should be a little bit easier. There seems to be generational or quote unquote generational type of prospects at the top of next year's class. But this year's class, I kind of knew going into the off season how this year's class was going to look. I kept saying 2026 is just so wide open. I have no idea. And it ended up being like that, honestly. So I don't know if I'll call it a weaker draft. I do think there's some good depth in the class, but it certainly doesn't have the blue chip talent that we've been spoiled by by recent classes. And we should be spoiled by once again in 2027.
Yeah, no, I think this class, I think you hit the nail on the head. Maybe you're not loving the idea if you're the Cardinals and you got the number 3 pick and it's like, I don't know what to do here. But when you're in that 25 to 75 window, there's a lot of guys that fit that range. So it's like, okay, this is actually a year where drafting based off positional need, you could probably get away with that. And then you get into another bucket just slightly lower of that 75 to 125 bucket where all these guys you're pretty comfortable as late 3rd, early 4th round guys. So I'm with you. The depth, I think, is going to be really the stalwart of this class is what we'll say. Certainly not necessarily the quarterbacks post number 1 overall, which, Max, if you're ready, let's go ahead and jump right into it. I've decided to give you the odds, so I have a feeling where you're going to go with this number 1 overall pick. But let me hear your thoughts on Mendoza. I mean, you kind of even hit on it there, just overall your kind of thoughts on him from summer to where we are now, clear cut. I'm assuming he's the number 1 overall pick, but what maybe stands out the most for Mendoza as a fit with the Raiders?
Yeah, I'm not pulling a Darren Orlovsky here. I'm not going to take Ty Simpson here at number 1 overall. Even though I do like Ty Simpson a lot, but Mendoza I think is pretty clearly my QB1 in this class. I think he's a really, really talented player, and honestly, credit to a lot of people who I remember. I think Corey Kinnan was one of the people who were really high on him preseason, and I think Nate Tice was very high on him too. And I'll be honest, I watched his Cal tape and I was like, I see the tools are there and I can see the potential for him to be a franchise quarterback down the line. But I didn't love the Cal tape that much. So I was always kind of pumping the brakes on Mendoza, but credit to them, man, they nailed it, honestly. I mean, Mendoza had a dream year this year at Indiana, of course, winning a Heisman, first ever in school history, winning a national title, first ever in school history. He kind of reminds me, I think my comp for him, I heard the Matt Ryan one a lot. I like that one.
That's what I've been going with.
Yeah, I like that one a lot. The other one I would go with is college version of Jared Goff. Whereas if people remember, Goff in college actually could move a little bit. And I think Mendoza's kind of like that too. But obviously now Jared Goff is way more of a statue. I think Mendoza, as his career progresses, will become more like Jared Goff, where he's not really taking off at all, and it'll be much more of just a pocket passer for you. And the release is very similar to Jared Goff. I think they're kind of similar type of players. And honestly, I think Mendoza will end up being a Jared Goff type of quarterback in terms of a good one and a guy that will start for you and will be a starter for a decade plus in the NFL like Jared Goff. But is he a superstar? Maybe not. So I kind of think Mendoza fits in that category right now. I don't know if he'll win an MVP like Matt Ryan did, So right. I think Jared Goff is kind of the comp I've been going with, college version of Jared Goff, the Cal version that we saw of Jared Goff. Very good prospect, worthy of number 1 overall pick, but certainly not he personally would have been, for me, QB4 in the 2024 quarterback class with Caleb Williams and Jaden Daniels and Drake May. I thought those 3 were clear of Mendoza pretty easily. He probably would have been the best of the rest in terms of Penix, Nix, and McCarthy. So that's kind of how I feel about Mendoza right now, and kind of like the same tier, I think, of Cam Ward as a prospect that's coming out last year.
Yeah, I'm with you in lockstride there. And kind of to your point about the Cal tape, it was 12 big time throws to 17 turnover worthy plays that last year at Cal. So like arm talent for sure, he can move a little bit, but like you're still like decision making wise, Cal's not a very good program, but like there's still a step to be made. And then he goes out there this year, 23 big time throws to 12 turnover worthy plays, and it's like, okay, well there's that step forward. But yeah, I've been going with the Matt Ryan comp, and then like there's some Kirk Cousins in there. Like I think about the shot to the grill he takes in that comeback against Penn State. Sorry to bring that up, but or even the Iowa game, he takes a shot, and like he's got a little bit of that Kirk Cousins thing where it's like this guy's kind of fearless in the pocket. So I respect that. But then to your point, Matt Ryan, Jared Goff, I'm kind of with you. And even to the Matt Ryan point, Sam and Steve over at, 33rd team and Check the Mic podcast, they've used Matt Ryan as the Matt Ryan inflection point. Is this guy going to be an elite guy? Is he going to be better than Matt Ryan, or is he going to be Matt Ryan or worse? So it's kind of funny now that I'm with you. I think Mendoza's going to be right there. Like, I don't know if he's going to ever hit elite status, but he'll be right there on the cusp of it. And honestly, like, I feel like the new Matt Ryan inflection point is kind of like Dak Prescott. Maybe it's someone else, but it's like, oh man, like QB9, you're like right there on the brink of being what we need to win a Super Bowl, but might take the perfect roster, or Kyle Shanahan calling plays to win you an MVP or something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, all right, I'll be quick here. Pick number 2. I'll go. We're gonna try to be predictive through the first 16, 20 picks here. But like I said last week with Dalton, your co-host on the College Football Pod, where most boards it feels like you get to 50 and then teams' boards become trees and they kind of branch off into a ton of different directions. I feel like it happens at 16 or 20 this year. So I am going to go Arvell Reese, and it sounds like he is going to be, an edge rusher. And with him going to this, 3-4 base, I think there could be some flexibility of maybe using him some as a, off-ball linebacker, using him some as an edge rusher. And I'm kind of a fan of that. I had said the same thing about like Jalen Walker last year. Like the more you move him into different places, like Frankie Louvu really with the Commanders, the more places he can line up, I think the better for him. So I'm kind of hoping the same thing, at least for year one for Arvell Reese. But if you're the Jets and you take him here at 2, you're hoping that guy is lining up Micah Parsons style on the edge spot, for a majority of his snaps. So, and I do think he's got the goods for it. It's just about developing a pass rush plan. He's got long arms, powerful hands. He's got some natural, bend ability within his skill set. So, and a killer frame too. So I think he can come along, but it's going to be interesting to see that year one deployment with Reese, because I don't know fully if like you're going to get the most out of him as an edge. So I wonder if there's some off ball sprinkled in there. Yeah. But Max, I wanted you to take odds because, brother, this is where it starts. Let the show begin. Get your popcorn ready. The number 3 overall pick. Like, this feels like where the draft really begins.
Yeah, it's tough, man. I just really, Arizona can go anywhere with this number 3 overall pick. I've seen tackle, I've seen Jeremiah Love, I've seen edge rusher for them too. I'll go differently. I've always mocked a tackle to them because I feel like they really need a right tackle. I know Jonah Williams is gone. He was very bad last year anyways. Elijah Wilkinson, they brought in to replace him, but also I don't think Elijah Wilkinson is a starting caliber tackle either. So right tackle is a need for Arizona. Absolutely. And I think they definitely could take Francis Mauigoa with this number 3 overall pick. I think I've done it so much though, and I do think there's another option that they could go with here. I'm going to change it up a little bit. I'm going to go with David Bailey, the edge out of Texas Tech. I feel like he will be somewhere around a top 5 pick in this. It could be a number 3 overall pick or even number 2 if the Jets really want to take him there. I'm going to go with him here. I think he's the best pass rusher in this class. He's my personal edge 1. It's really 1A, 1B with him and Ruben Bain Jr. though. But David Bailey led the nation in pass rushing grade at Stanford in 2024, and he led the nation in pass rushing grade at Texas Tech this past year too. So he is a special pass rusher. I thought he got a little bit better in run defense too, because he was a liability at Stanford. Got a lot better at Texas Tech, I thought, this year too. So love David Bailey, love the explosiveness, the get off, the bend that he shows, a lot of pass rushing moves that he has in his arsenal too. I would take David Bailey. If I was the Jets, honestly, I'd probably take David Bailey at number 2 overall. I'm a little bit lower on Arvell Reese. I think it's way more of a projection there than people might think with him. No. So I want to take David Bailey here to the Cardinals. I do think he's an option for them at number 3 overall, but it was very, very close with Francis Mauigoa because they definitely do need a right tackle to complement Paris Johnson Jr. too. And
really, I kind of like the idea of going Bailey because, Darius Robinson still we're kind of waiting to see. Josh Sweat I like, but he could use another running mate. Zaven Collins is, what isn't he? Linebacker edge, they've kind of had a hard time finding a home for him. So I like the idea of just like, hey, we know what David Bailey is, even if he's, a 2.5 down player. You don't love him on first down, but he can be out there. Just get a flamethrower, dude. Like, this is a guy that just can pin his ears back. Him plus Walter Nolan on the field together. Like, I would love to see that inside out kind of or frankly, let's line them up next to each other on the same side. I would love to see that. And it is kind of funny. Like, I wonder what the Jets ultimately do, right? Like, are you doing the Arvell Reese thing on the heels of seeing it work for Micah, Abdul Carter, Jalen Walker? And is that why you're making him the pick at 2 versus like David Bailey? If you take him at 2, maybe Reese eventually has a higher ceiling, but like you feel pretty good about like this is the edge rusher that can play for us. So it is interesting to know the devil you know versus the devil you think you might know down the line. So it's very interesting.
The only thing I'll say with Arvell Reese real quick is like if you actually look at the numbers as a pass rusher, like he is pretty far behind what Abdul Carter was at linebacker, what Micah Parsons was at linebacker, even Jalen Walker at linebacker too. Like I think his pass rush win rate this year is 13%. Like Jalen Walker was like 17% at linebacker at Georgia. Right. Carter was at like 25% in his final year at linebacker at Penn State, and Parsons was at like 21%. So I think Reese is raw. I personally am in the camp. I think he's more of a linebacker than an edge rusher. Certainly I would play him at edge on some downs, but I think he's much more of a linebacker than an edge right now. So yeah, I'm a little bit low. I think Arvell Reese in this class is worth a top 10 pick because the upside is just tremendous, obviously. But number 2 overall is where it gets a little too much for me there.
Yeah, totally. And that's where it's so hard doing this sometimes because you're projecting 5-10 years down the line versus like right now as an edge rusher, not to give away too many of my future rankings, but where he is right now, he's to me the 3rd best edge rusher. Like, and some of that's still projection, but like Bain and Bailey, like if I want an edge, like I feel pretty confident what that's going to be. And Reese isn't even the best off-ball linebacker in my opinion, in this class. So it's also one of these things where it's like, damn, like he's not even the number 1 guy at either spot. One other thought I wanted to give real quick about the Cardinals. I kind of love the Bailey thing too, because I'm pretty confident, and at least this is how it's played out in a lot of my mocks. I think we'll get to the top of the 2nd round if we don't trade up for a Ty Simpson or something like that, where I think there's a shot Miller, Iheanacho, Lomu, I think there's going to be a top of the 2nd round right tackle option. So I kind of like the idea of going Bailey there. Which then puts the Titans on the clock, man. And this is tricky because do I want to go with like what's seemingly the trendy pick right now in Jeremiah Love, or do I want to go elsewhere? If it was just my board, I'd go Sonny Styles, but Robert Saleh's done a hell of a job, man. I mean, like Quincy Williams became an all-pro after not really being someone seen in that light. And then what he did with San Francisco last year, Eric Kendricks was playing snaps for this team by the end of the year. He gets great play at a linebacker, so I don't know if they have to do it here with Styles at 4. So, man, I kind of want to go Carnell Tate, to be completely honest with you. It may be a little early for some, and he's not even my wide receiver 1, but I think the idea of him being a true X, eventually you're going to move on from Ridley. Ayumanor as a Z, Wan'Dale Robinson is your slot. Chimere DK is a kind of a gadget player. I like how that rounds that room out. And then at 35, could Cassius Howell be there or, an edge rusher of that ilk? I like Jeremiah Love a lot, man. But I think I'm going to go Tate here. Your thoughts on the number 4 overall pick, Love versus Tate here for the Titans?
If predictive, I think it's probably Jeremiah Love right now. That's where I would lean, but it's another hard one. I mean, I could see them going an edge rusher like if David Bailey was here, they would love that. Maybe Ruben Bain, they're still interested in him. I just think right now all the smoke seems to be leaning towards Jeremiah Love right now. So it's tough. It really is tough. But I that's where I lean. But I get the argument for edge, wide receiver. Sonny Styles makes sense too. I mean, I think it's kind of tough here. I mean, 3 and 4 is a really difficult pick for I think.
And what I will say, as much as it's like you don't love taking a running back at 4, they have done some recent signings trying to patch up that interior offensive line a little bit more as we get closer to the season. And also like edge and wide receiver, those are probably the deepest position groups in this class, as long as I'm not forgetting anything crazy off the top of my head. So if you're telling me you're dipping into that 2nd, 3rd round, I don't hate that as much as like, oh, you drafted a 4th round running back. I'm like, oh, okay, well, that guy's probably not going to be an instant playmaker for you. But this is a team that like Pollard's fine, Haskins from last year's draft, Spears is still there. So like, I don't know if they have to go Love either. But that being said, you have your backfield of the future. It sells a lot of jerseys. His pass catching role in Notre Dame's offense last year, that makes it a little bit of an easier pill to swallow here at 4. So all that said, let's go predictive. Let's go Jeremiah Love at 4. So I'll give it to you here, the Giants at 5. This is another tricky one. It could go in a lot of different ways. It
could, yeah. Plus the Jeremiah Love thing, you mentioned like deeper position groups. I think the most shallow one is running back. This running back class, man, it's Jeremiah Love and then everyone else. I mean, it's just totally. I'm not a huge fan of this running back class at all, honestly. So I think if you do need a running back, and the Titans do, I think Jeremiah Love is worth a top 5, top 10 pick. Plus, you can make an argument he's the best player overall in the draft this year. So positional value matters, of course, in this draft, but also Jeremiah Love is a pretty awesome player. So I get it for Tennessee. Number 4. For the Giants here at 5, I'm actually going to go with Sonny Styles, the next guy on the board right there. Love his tape. I mean, Dawn and I actually just did our top 10 linebackers episode recently on our college football show. And I said it. I was looking through it. You can make an argument because if you consider Micah Parsons an edge rusher, which of course he is now, you can make an argument that Sonny Styles is the best pure linebacker prospect since like Luke Kuechly 15 years ago, right? I think he's a special football player, man. I think he's an unbelievable athlete. He was so good in coverage this year. He was so good in run defense, former safety. So you got the coverage ability of a safety, but also the physicality of a linebacker too. I'm blown away by Sonny Styles. I think he's an awesome football player. And, John Harbaugh recently, someone asked him about positional value. And he actually mentioned linebacker. And he says, some people don't think linebackers are a premium position. I consider linebacker to be a very valuable position. So the fact that your new head coach is already saying, hey, linebacker is a really important position for my football team, and Sonny Styles is staring you in the face right there, and you have a need at linebacker, I'm taking Sonny Styles here for the Giants. I think this is probably where I think they're going to go here with the number 5 overall pick.
Yeah, and he's the guy that was part of the Roquan Smith trade to Baltimore, and as much as they did sign Tremaine Edmonds, that is not a contract with a whole lot of guarantees for the future. So, perfect world, Edmonds, plays like he was, former first rounder, and you have him and Styles, 2 alien athletes in the middle of your defense, and you're cooking on all, you're firing all cylinders. More realistic situation, I could see where they move on from that contract a year early or maybe 2 years early after this upcoming season, and it's Styles' show there. So, and what I will say too is like linebacker, safety, running back, they're not high position values, but and I think the same was true about guard, and then that market kind of got reset. When you have an elite one, it may not be an elite position value for the draft, but an elite player is an elite player at that position. Yeah. So, like Zach Martin is kind of the guy that immediately comes to mind. Like you took a guard pretty early, or Quentin Nelson, another example where it's like you drafted a guard at 6, but he's an elite 10-year all-pro like level player. So he's a guard, but he's a badass guard. So don't overthink it too much. So then the Browns here, man, this has been kind of like a trade down spot for this team, to be completely honest, because I look at their O-line work in free agency and, like left tackle's just sticking out like a sore thumb, Monroe Freeling hype, like kind of feels like that might be the direction they're going. So I'd like to see this team trade down, maybe with like the Rams at 13, Rams come up and take Tate or something for the future. But I do think that's the tough part about that theory is the Browns passing on Tate. As much as it does feel like they're kind of signaling, hey, we really like Monroe Freeling, we have a left tackle opening, he's a good football player, and I like him, and I'm intrigued by the upside. But here at 6 is a little rich for me versus Carnell Tate. I was just trying to sell him at number 4 overall. So I'm going to go with Carnell Tate, go with a little chalky move here. But I still think that's a team that could trade back, say for someone that really likes Carnell Tate. They move back, they take their swing of the bat on Monroe Freeling, and then tap into the wide receiver well a little bit later on. Because they pick again at 24 is it? Yeah, 24. So like that's a good spot to go get Concepcion, Omar Cooper if he's there, Denzel Boston, someone of that ilk too. So you don't have to do it here, but at the same time, the Brownies passing on an Ohio State player, sometimes it's like, I just can't see them doing it. So I'm going to go Tate there at 6.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I think he will be the first receiver taken in the draft. And and I kind of like the depth of this tackle class too, that you can get later on at 24, even 39. So I think they could get a pretty good tackle with that pick too. So I think it makes a lot of sense. It probably would be what I think the Browns are going to do as well. I have Commanders here at 7. I'm going to go with
Could I pitch a name to you? Just because it's pressing. I look at what the Commanders have done so far in free agency, and one of the position groups they've neglected so far is corner. And fresh off the heels of a 4.3 840. I mean, I've watched every game over the last 2 years now, or the last 3 years now, Mansour Lane. I don't ever see 4.38, to be completely honest with you. I thought like 4.44 would have been a really good number for him, but damn, I mean, take whatever they're giving you, 4.38. So I want to know your kind of thoughts on. There are mock drafts where you see him go in top 10, but now it feels like, man, sub 4.40. Like this could be a guy that creeps up maybe into this number 7 overall pick, which that would be to me like the highest I've seen him go. So I want to get your thoughts on the 40 time for Delane, and then of course take it away here at number 7 for the Commanders.
Yeah, that's a great option. Because they need help all over the defense, really, besides maybe linebacker. I mean, their D line is bad. The secondary is bad too. Like they need help a lot of places defensively. Right. And Delane, I think you're right. I think he's probably gonna be a top 10 pick now after running that 40 and just having the year he had this past year, and with Jermon McCoy just not working out at all. It's just a big question mark around him too. I think Delane is pretty comfortably the top corner off the board now in this class. I'm not going to pull the trigger here because I do like a one player a little bit bigger or a little bit better for them in Ruben Bain. I'm going to take him here for Washington because, like I said before, the defensive line just needs help, and they got Odafe Owe coming in free agency, who's a solid player, but other than that, the defensive line still needs a lot of help. With guys like Preston Smith and Caleb Von Chase on and stuff like that too. So I'm going to take Ruben Bain Jr., who of course has very, very short arms, but his arm length is an outlier, but his tape is also an outlier too. I think he's talent-wise, he can make an argument he's a top 3 player or top 4 player in this class. So here at number 7, I get the arm length concerns, but he was so good this past year and so good throughout his career that I think he will translate to the next level. And the Commanders need help at defensive line. So I think he will go above Mansard Delane as of right now. That might change by the time the draft rolls around, but I'll take Ruben Bain here because I think the Commanders just got to add some talent defensively to their team.
And what I'll say to that is, as much as I'm using their free agency, they signed a safety in Nick Cross, they signed a running back in Rashad White, they signed a couple of edge rushers. It feels like maybe honestly they're bracing for a potential move back. Team that doesn't have a second round pick, I could see that if they have a team that's willing to come up and move to number 7. But it's also one of these things where you look at those edge rushers outside of Oweh. There's not a whole lot of long-term, guarantees there. A lot of 1-year contracts, a lot of 2-year deals that could become 1-year deals. So it's kind of Odafe, Oweh, and then who else? So I still love, and what I will say too, I keep saying that phrase, I don't know why, but Dan Quinn, when he first got to Dallas, he was kind of on the cutting edge of these stunts and twists and trying to find there's an axiom here. Eventually they will lose effectiveness, but I still don't think we've found that point. And Dan Quinn was kind of at the forefront of that. So getting Ruben Bain, his build-up speed and his power on those stunts and twists, I mean, sheesh. And as bad as that secondary was last year, some pass rush will make those guys look a lot better.
Yes.
To the Saints here, I think this is going to be my Delane spot. One, LSU to New Orleans.
True.
Low moving costs. We love to see it. But it's also Isaac Yiadom starting opposite of Kool-Aid McKinstry. So, no disrespect. I remember the tweet. This is a whole different conversation, but this whole where we are now in sports media and journalism. I'm talking to a graduate of the Newhouse School over at Syracuse, so this, but this, the Rappaport, the Pelissero, the Garofolo, all these tweets from these agents. And I mean, good Lord, I'm losing my mind. But to me, last year, the one that exemplified that was when the Saints re-signed Isaac Yiadom. They got their guy, 3 years, $9 million. I was like, oh, that's your guy. Oh, okay. So funny enough, I'm going to go with Mansard Delane and say that's he's a little bit more their guy than Isaac Yiadom. But anyways, random soliloquy on agent tweets. I'm going to go with Delane, keep him close to home there with New Orleans. And I think him plus Kool-Aid McKinstry, that's a really awesome 1-2 punch on the outside.
Yeah, I love Kool-Aid coming out of the class. I think Adam CB won that year. I really like Kool-Aid a lot. But yeah, Mansard Delane, man, so good this past year at LSU. I think he is a top corner in the draft. And like you said, I mean, now that Carnell Tate's off the board, I mean, I don't know if Mekhi Lemon or Jordan Tyson go this high. And then it's hard to find another player that really fits what they need right now besides Mansard Delane, right? So I think Mansard Delane, that's a great pick right there. And like you said, low moving cost going there from Baton Rouge to New Orleans. So love that pick. And if Olave didn't have the injury concerns that he has, maybe they take the swing of the bat on Tyson here. But the concussions, the blood clots last year, it's like one of those. I don't know if I want to double down on that. But if Tate's here, that's the type of receiver. They're like an X ball winner, vertical route tree, vertical playing type of guy on top of Olave, who then can move into a Z roll kind of flanker spot. So I think, and not to tip off my hand too much, but I think the second round there'll be some guys that we could plug into that X receiver role. But anyways, I give it to you here with the Kansas City Chiefs. Not often we get to talk about Kansas City in the top 10. So every time we get to this pick in the mocks, it's such an interesting conversation. But what do you want to do here for the Chiefs? Yeah, it's so complicated because they Mansard Delane would have been my pick if he made it there to 9. Because I think they need a corner now. It's trading away Trent McDuffie. But yeah, I think what I'm gonna do here, I might go with. Man, this is really tough. I think I'm gonna go with Mekhi Lemon. I'm here for it. The wide receiver. He's my personal wide receiver 1. I loved him this past year. I think he was unbelievable. I don't think he might not go top 10. So this predictive mock is a little tough here for him. But I just with Kansas City now. I mean, I don't know if Jamal McCoy will not go this high. I don't think. I think Mekhi Lemon could go somewhere in the top 15. So I'll take him here. I don't think this is much of a stretch to take him here. But I mean, Kansas City, there's just so much unknown with their receiving core right now. So you just got to get with Rashee Rice's injuries and of course the off-field issues that he's dealing with. Right now, you got Xavier Worthy there too, and Tyquan Thornton, but that receiving core is a big weakness right now in Kansas City. So I would take Mekhi Lemon here. I think he will go above Jordan Tyson in the draft because of the injury concerns with Jordan Tyson. But it is close between the two of them. It's just tough for Kansas City because, like I said, I consider Caleb Downs for a second because I think he would be awesome in that defense. But and Mansard Delane would have been an easy pick for me if he was here. But I'm gonna go with Mekhi Lemon here for Kansas City. I've only done this in one other mock, and I love it. And it's one part Rashee Rice and Jordan Addison feel hell-bent on working their way out of the league right now, and I don't exactly know why. But I also think of Lemon as a guy who can play Z. I know some people see him as a slot only. I know the catch radius isn't insane, but I think he could do enough on the outside if he's not directly on the line of scrimmage and dealing with press coverage. Not to let my bias show too much, but that was the Leonard Moore Notre Dame game. That's kind of where we showcased that weakness, and one of the few weaknesses Lemon has in his game.
But I think he can play some Z. And I mean, this team's still looking kind of for that X-ball winner type. But considering we don't know what's going to happen with Rice long term, kind of a hard guy to justify a contract for at this point. Yeah, I kind of like future-proof in that spot with Lemon. And that team's become so yards after the catch dependent. The number one thing I have written down in my scouting report for Lemon is he's never tackled where he catches the football. And I love that about him. And he's also got the tenacity, middle of the field. He'll make some tough grabs. He can work the sideline well. So I think, I love that fit. And frankly, like it's one of those picks that you don't see it a whole lot in mocks now. And sometimes when you do it, maybe the Chiefs fans are like, no, we need this, that, or the other. I think if it happened on draft night, Chiefs fans would be elated because it's like, that's a good football player. And man, just to get some firepower in that offense, like they need help, but that would be a lot of fun. Bengals, this feels kind of boring, so that's why I talked about that last pick a little bit more. I'm going to go Caleb Downs.
Yeah.
And I still like Jordan Battle. He's not as good as I thought he would be, but for a third-round pick, really what I would do, I just play Downs in the slot at this point, homie. Like, I think you play Brian Cook at free. Battle's fine enough inside the box as a strong. I would put Caleb Downs as close to the center of the gravity of every play. I want him near the line of scrimmage, as close to the center of focus as humanly possible. I want his tackling involved in the run game. And I think he's a good enough coverage player to where, especially if you're playing zone, I think his instincts play there. But even in man, like I think he could be an interesting kind of tight end matchup, running back matchup in the flat. I think there's a lot of different things you could do with Caleb Downs. But the fact of the matter is, like, the Bengals need to raise the floor of their defense, and like Caleb Downs is the number one guy to do that in this year's class. So easy pick for me there at 10.
I actually looked it up when I was running some mock drafts. I had this pick endless times to Cincinnati as well. Since Jesse Bates left Cincinnati, so I believe it 3 or 4 years now he's been gone. They've had the lowest graded group of safeties in football since he left. So it's a big weakness in Cincinnati. I mean, the middle of their defense, whether it be D tackle, linebacker, safety, it's just been awful lately for Cincinnati. So I think Caleb Downs, again, I would argue he and Jeremiah Love are the best players overall in this draft, and he's certainly worth the top 10 pick in this kind of draft too. So I think that's a home run pick for Cincinnati. I think that's, if he's there at 10, I would sprint that card in. I wouldn't even wait for trade offers for Cincinnati. I would immediately put that card in for Caleb.
That's the guy they need, and you just go make that pick 100% through and through. Miami, this is kind of a doozy spot.
Miami's 11, because here's the thing, Tej, I think they might have the worst receiving core in football, and I think they have the worst secondary in football. Yeah. So, but there's one guy that just keeps slipping here on this board that I kind of think he fits, and is also low moving cost, by the way, too. Francis Mauigoa, they need help on the offensive line as well. And I guard more so than tackle, but they don't really have too many great players to tackle either. Yeah. I might take Francis Mauigoa here and say he could be a guard or a tackle for them. Again, it's not as big of a need as receiver or secondary, but also like you look at the board right now and you got Jordan Tyson and Jermon McCoy and Dylan Thiedemann, sure, but I think Francis Mauigoa, I mean, this guy could be the number 3 overall pick in April. That was the guy I was debating before earlier, and I think he's going to go somewhere in the top 10. So I don't know how much farther he's going to fall in this draft, and I do think offensive line is a need for Miami. Not as bad of a need as receiver or corner is, or secondary, actually, anything. Yeah. But I will take him here. I think Francis Mauigoa, this is really good value for them. Again, low moving cost too. That's been kind of a theme of this mock draft. But yeah, I think this. I don't think I've ever done this before. I don't think I've ever seen this fit before either. But it just seems like if he fell all the way here at 11, this also might be a spot where they look to trade. Someone wants to come up for Francis Mauigoa. That would make a lot of sense too. But I think it fits here for Miami though too.
I love it. Honestly, I think this number 11 overall pick will be offensive line. I think Jeff Hafley, he's probably been given some assurances, kind of like Kellen Moore in New Orleans, where like, we're going to be bad next year. Don't worry. You're not going to get fired after a year. We're going to trade Jalen Waddle, and we're going to load up on picks. We got a new GM in. We're going to tear this down to the studs. So I feel like it's going to be O-line at 11. I was going to try to sell you on Venga Ioane.
Sure.
Last week with Dalton, I did Spencer Fano. But Moe Noah, 5-star recruit, Miami Hurricane legend. Like, if there's an offensive line guy to sell jerseys, like CeCe Moe Noah is that for the Dolphins.
True, yeah.
But really, whoever they think the best guy is between Fano, Moe Noah, and Venga, I think that's who's going to be the pick at number 11. Because you look at their guard spot, and like Bobby Slowick, Shanahan guy, it's Jonas Evanaya coming off a really bad year, and then Jamari Sawyer. And I think both those spots, you have room to improve. So I do think it's going to be one of those three. Whoever they see is like the best like guard fit, I think that's who they're going to pull the trigger on at 11. And then go corner at 30.
Yeah, even so, like Austin Jackson is slated to be their right tackle right now. He's been a below average player his whole career, right? Or if not worse than that too. So like even a right tackle, you can play that for you too. I think this is a fit that makes. I never thought of this one before, but I think this is actually a possibility for Miami on draft day.
In breaking news, Michigan has punched their ticket to the Final Four. We're recording this. We wanted to do this so that way we didn't miss too much of the UConn and Michigan State. So that game would be freaking nuts. But
points, Jesus, yeah.
Michigan. I didn't mind recording during that game for a reason. I didn't think the Vols really had a shot. But anyways, the few picks that I got right this March. But I also think, dude, like Aaron Brewer. I mean, he's coming off a good year, but like 5 years down the line, is he the center for this team? That's kind of where like low key Spencer Fano. He's kind of position agnostic. Like wherever you are in 5 years, that guy's going to be starting for you. So I kind of like the idea of Fano, but I like Moe Noe there a lot as well. So then getting on the Cowboys here at 12. This is I'm kind of a few different minds here. Switching to a 3-4 base, which I mean nickel's the new base. That's a little overrated in my mind, but Rashawn Gary had a hard time being productive last year playing next to Micah Parsons. So, like, if you can't be productive in that spot, I don't know. I feel like edge is definitely a spot. So maybe they go the Akeem Ezador route. They did the Chavon Ravel thing last year. So if you drafted a corner in the third round off the ACL, why not do the first round version of that and Jermon McCoy? But that might be the exact thing. They're willing to do that on a player in the third round, not the first round. So I'm of so many different minds. And then Dylan Thiedemann, like I'm kind of leaning in that direction just because Malik Hooker's fine. Like he's okay. Jalen Thompson, I think, is a solid football player. PJ Locke, he's 29 years old, 1 year contract. Not really worried about that. And then Kobe Durant, Ron Bland, one of those two guys in the nickel. But really, I think Jalen Thompson plus Dylan Thiedemann, like that would be a really awesome 1-2 punch there on the back end. And Thiedemann this last year, he proved he's more than just like a single high free safety that he was at Purdue. He playing split safety looks, great form tackling when coming downhill. Really from the Penn State game on, he had a pick against you. Again, I keep hating that I'm picking on your Nittany Lions today, but got that pick against Penn State, and ever since then, dude, I thought he had an insane season. So I think I'm going to go Thiedemann. I'm going to go Thiedemann here at 12. Also, his stock is just kind of through the roof after having a really solid showing at the combine. And again, I think the tape's worth it here at number 12. So I'm going to go Dylan Thiedemann there, pair him up with Jalen Thompson, and like all of a sudden, the back end of that Cowboys defense in one offseason looks so much better in the safety spot.
I mean, he was the best safety in college football this past year, in my opinion. And I thought he was unreal. Yeah, I think he was so good. And that's saying a lot considering Caleb Downs played at the same time as him. So he's really good. I think he's going to go somewhere in the top 20 for sure. I think Jermon McCoy is another guy that, like you said, they could be looking at here too. But that secondary, I think it was probably the worst secondary in football this past year. They need help in that secondary badly. So with one of those 2 first-round picks, one of those 2 top 20 picks, if they don't come out of there with at least one defensive back, I think it's a big miss by Dallas, honestly. So Rams here at 13, you can make an argument that Rams are the best roster in football right now. I think they might be the favorite to win it all going into next year. I think where I'm going to go here, yeah, this is tough. I think I'm kind of between a few players right here. I'm between the top 2 tackles in Freeling and Fano.
Sure.
And I'm also between Jordan Tyson here too, because they got to be ridiculous in that receiving core.
Don't know what you're thinking here, but I love the idea of Tyson. Like future-proofing that position. I got to learn from DA. This is a team that's going to fuck them picks anyway. So like, let's go ahead and take I'm totally here for the Tyson move.
All right, let's do it. Let's do Jordan Tyson. Because I think Warren McClendon. I don't think people will like give enough credit for how good he was at right tackle for them this past year.
I agree.
He is going into his last year of his rookie deal, so we'll see whether or not they believe in him as the right tackle of the future. But I would let him play it out one more year at right tackle, see what happens. Then maybe the next following year you can look at a right tackle too. But yeah, Jordan Tyson. I mean, they're going to sign Puka Nacua to an extension. Devontae Adams is, I think, going into his final year of his deal too. Of course, getting older. So yeah, you gotta get more help at receiver because outside of those two, they didn't have much at receiver at all. So I think Jordan Tyson, the injury history is concerning, but I think he would fit a need there in Los Angeles.
But that's exactly why I think it makes sense for LA because like if let's just say Jordan Tyson in an alternate universe only missed 2 college games, he's the number 2 overall pick to the New York Jets, in my opinion. Like I think the tape's that good and like the need for the Jets, that makes sense. So like for the Rams, it's like, oh shoot, this talented guy who could be as good as the number 2 overall, number 3, number 4, 5 overall pick in this class, he just fell to us at 13. Sure, let's just see where this goes. And even like the Puka thing right now with all the stuff he's got going off the field, like let's just just add a few extra bodies. To the
actually, that's true too. Yeah, that's a good
I don't know what's going on there. And frankly, I would have taken Jordan Tyson here at 14 for the Ravens too. So just because you almost didn't have this pick, what do you have to lose? Let's go get that wide receiver you guys have been looking for. But that being said, Max, I don't know how you feel about this, but I wanted Jesse Minter to be the Steelers' next head coach. I understood that was like a long shot because of his ties to Baltimore, but pretty much this entire offseason so far. Everything I've wanted to have happen for the Steelers, minus the Max Crosby thing, I'd never just considered that. Everything I've wanted the Steelers to do, the Ravens have beaten us to it. So I think it's going to be Vega Ioane. I think he's going to be the pick here at 14 because I really want him to be the pick at 21 to replace Sayamalu. Feels like a Steelers move. And then maybe you trade back in the first round for a Ty Simpson. Again, we can talk about that another time. But I look at, you get Vega at 14. You brought back John Simpson, both guys who can fit in with what Declan Doyle's trying to do, get these guys on the move, be a little bit more zone-based, but still keep that physicality and still, if you want to go man, want to go gap-oriented and just blow the dude off the line of scrimmage, pause. But Vega, he can fit with that as well. So I think you're kind of getting scheme agnostic. He feels like a Raven in a lot of ways. So, and the fact that I want him to be a Steeler tells me everything I need to know. He's going to be a future Baltimore Raven. So Vega Ioane is the pick at 14.
Yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense. I think Spencer Fano could play on the interior too, whether it be center or guard, because now Linderbaum's gone. They have a need there too.
Ooh, do I undo the pick now that it's something we can do in mock drafts, but we can't do in the real NFL draft? Do I undo this and make it Spencer Fano? I forgot about the Linderbaum of it all. That's good. Yeah, I don't. And you know what? Just for something that's a little different, and maybe this will save the Steelers down the line. Forget everything I just said about Vega Ioane as a Baltimore Raven. Make it Spencer Fano, because I do like that one because the arm length of the pro day came out closer to what you would hope for a tackle.
Mm-hmm.
Brian Stanley, we're starting to get a little long in the tooth. The center position up for grabs. I ultimately think Fano is going to be good at any spot he plays, but center might be the spot where he becomes the best guy in the league at that spot. So I don't hate that idea whatsoever. So let's go Spencer Fano for the intro.
Yeah. He's my number one offensive lineman in the class. Honestly, I love the tape from him the last 2 years. Honestly, and the arm length is good enough. I would stick him a tackle, but if somewhere like the Ravens where they don't really need a tackle, but they desperately need help on the interior, he could be an all-pro type of player at guard or even center maybe too. So yeah, I love Spencer Fano. I think he's well worth. I would take him in the top 10. Honestly, this draft, I think he's well worth the pick at 14 for Baltimore. This one here is interesting. So. Could go Vega Ioane, honestly. That could be an option.
I was just looking at who their left guard is. Ben Bredesen. I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, I could do it. The other one I'm thinking about and thinking where I actually might go here is I think I'm gonna take Kenyon Sadiq.
Kenyon Sadiq, I love it. Let's go.
Yeah, I think this is a pick where they just go scorched earth and just add more to that receiving core. Now that of course Mike Evans is gone now. So but I think you look at the tight ends on Tampa Bay right now. You got Payne Durham and Cade Otton. I don't think either. I think both of those players are depth options. I don't think neither of them should be starting tight ends in the league. I think Kenyon Sadiq will be a top 20 pick in the draft. So this is a little bit predictive here. I'm a little bit lower on him than most people, but I do think he will be a top 20 pick. He's a freak athlete. Led the nation in touchdowns this past year at tight end. So yeah, I'm gonna go with Kenyon Sadiq. I think most people take a linebacker or an edge rusher here for Tampa Bay, and that is the two places I was looking first. But again, there's not really a great board here for those two positions. Maybe Akeem Mesidor will fit that defense, but I in a predictive mock, I do think Kenyon Sadiq goes above Akeem Mesidor right now, so I will take him here to the Buccaneers.
Yeah, and Otton got a new contract, but he is a replaceable player through and through. And honestly, Evans is gone. Chris Godwin at this point in his career probably not going to be the same guy he was 3 and 5 years ago. So I think you're basically setting up this offense to be Emeka Egbuka, Jalen McMillan, and Kenyon Sadiq. Those are your main pass catchers for the future. So I don't hate it whatsoever. And now, granted, if they get back on track with the OC stuff, then this really becomes fun. But it's got to nail that. And then, granted, former PFFer Zach Robertson, I think they're in good hands there. It didn't go great in Atlanta, but as long as he's not in the pistol, that would be that's the number one thing I want to see. I don't want to see the Bucs running any pistol because that was interesting in Atlanta.
Yeah.
New York Jets. Okay, so at 2 we went Reese. Okay. I almost feel like this could be a trade back spot, to be honest. I know they had the 2-2s, but Freeling's still here and Vanga here. I could see where a team's itching to creep up the board, especially with the Lions there at 17. Is there a team that's looking to leapfrog the Lions? Assuming that, hey, if Freeling's here, he's probably the pick for the Lions. I wonder who would be. Let me see who.
It might be Cleveland, man.
Is it Cleveland to make sure they get their guy? Let's do Cleveland. They've got some extra ammo. Yeah, so let's do, what would that be? 24 for 16. And then let me pull up the draft tech trade chart real quick. I think it might just be 33. Maybe you might be able to even just do it for 44. Let's see. So 24 is worth 740. Trying to get up to 1,000. Oh, boom. Pick 70 is exactly what we need. So boom. You give up one of your thirds. if you're Cleveland, and then so 39 and then 107. So yeah, you give up 70, and then for the Jets, you don't have a third round pick. So this is we're not going to get to a third round today, but in theory, I feel like that's good practice. Let's go for that. We don't even have to force the trade. We love to see it. So real easy here. Monroe Freeling. It does feel like he's the guy. I like and Corey Kinnon, another mention to him, like he's tapped into the Browns, and it sounds like he knows they really like Monroe Freeling. So this wouldn't shock me whatsoever. They have not only extra ammunition this year to use, they have a ton of ammunition next year. So like I could totally see where they're a team that's willing to move some picks to ensure they get their guy. And in this spot, you're moving up 8 spots to go make sure you get them. I think it makes sense for both sides. So Monroe Freeling to the Browns. And now we can say we did some mock draft with trade. So we're really just cracking the SEO code. Now we're really cheating. So okay, now an interesting spot here for the Detroit Lions. If Freeling was your guy here at 17, what do you pivot to?
Yeah, it's tough. The one thing I'll say too with the Jets at 16 too is that like it makes sense for them to want to trade down, considering like there's no receiver. I would take it 16 now. I think that's a big point too. It's like, hey, at 24, that's where Denzel Boston and Omar Cooper Jr. are going to be more palatable. At 16, it's like, okay, we're reaching now because the big 3 wide receivers are gone. So I think both sides. I think it makes a lot of sense for the Browns to leapfrog the Lions. I would have absolutely taken Freeland to the Lions at 17 here if I had the opportunity. I think it makes sense for both sides, honestly. 17 here, Detroit Lions. Again, tackle it seemed like the overwhelming favorite for them right now. I think edge rusher is also a need too for Detroit. Yeah. Corner maybe could be a need for this team too. So there is a couple of ways I can go here for the Lions. I do love Caden Proctor, and he could be a pick here at 17. Yeah, actually, you know what? I think I'm going to do it. I think I'm going to take Caden Proctor. I'm actually really high on Caden Proctor. I think he's got, again, I want him to lose a little bit more weight. I think he can be even better. But he had a great tape this past year at Alabama. Really, he's a good athlete for his size. Again, he's still got to lose a little bit more weight. But I'm really high on him. I would put him up there with the Mauangelas and the Fanos and the Freelings too. I'm a little bit lower on Freeling, but consensus-wise, I'll put him up there as a top 20 player of this class. So I'll take Caden Proctor to Detroit and kind of be the Taylor Decker replacement for the Lions.
Yeah, don't hate it whatsoever. I think I might have gone Blake Miller, to be completely honest with you. I like Miller a little bit more. And I get it. Like, I think the Proctor, him and Keldrick Falk almost feel like they're in the same bucket where, like, preseason, they're way over here. They're, like, top 5 picks. They're awesome. They're guys. They're studs. And then, like, maybe the hype doesn't quite live up to the tape that we end up getting. But I don't know. I feel like the pendulum swung too far the other way. Like, these guys are still, like, in a not – super top heavy class. Like, these are still among the top 32 players. So like these guys should definitely go round 1. So I'm with you on that standpoint through and through. But like also Penei Sewell was like pretty well developed coming out of Oregon, but like taking that athletic package and then just like taking him fully to the next level is like top 3, top 2 right tackle in the NFL. Let's be honest. I would love to see them try to work with the tools that Caden Proctor has. And I'm with you too. Like, let's get down to 345. Like that would be 345. Like, that would be the goal for me. Minnesota Vikings here at 18. This is a tough team, to be completely honest with you. In some ways, I like the idea of going safety here, but it's a deep safety class, and I wonder if they could just kind of wait. And I also just like typically Brian Flores doesn't like playing young guys. But that being said, Metellus is more of a nickel, and then it's Jay Ward and Theo Jackson. So like, safety is definitely. But
I pull the trigger on Jermon McCoy here, I think, for Minnesota.
And Jermon McCoy, like Brian Flores at his like old school roots, like when he was coming from New England, like man press, like McCoy's got the goods for that. But he's also, and plus we're going to see him moving at his pro day here. I think that's this upcoming week. So that'll be good to see. I do think his athleticism will play in zone. Avion Terrell to me is also like uniquely a very Brian Flores type of corner. And then the other thing, kind of like to what we talked about with Mekhi Lemon and Rashee Rice, like, can you extend Jordan Addison at this point?
Yeah.
Can you go Omar Cooper Jr.? Like, Hawkinson's kind of getting up there in age. I wonder if they're looking for targets to go somewhere. Go get some secondary help later. I don't know. I'm honestly really thinking about Omar Cooper Jr. here.
Good. That makes a lot of sense, honestly. The Addison situation is so complicated right now.
And you lose Naylor.
Yeah.
So who's their receiver 3? Ty Felton. Okay. Yeah, at this point, I think you're trading Addison. I'm going to go Omar Cooper Jr. And part of that is, I'm kind of baking into like just the people I talk to in like Minnesota. It's kind of clear to them that Flores doesn't want to play young guys. That's why you go and get James Pierre's, the Isaiah Rodgers of the world, because they have some experience and they can play right away. But that being said, like safety, is looking like a rut row right now for Minnesota. So maybe it's something they get in the second or third round here in this second round, maybe in this mock draft. So, but I'm going to go with Omar Cooper Jr. to be our Addison replacement.
Yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense. Like I said, that situation is so complicated that they might need to take a receiver in somewhere very high in the draft just to complement Justin Jefferson in some way, keep him happy, honestly, because it doesn't seem like he was very happy this past year in Minnesota. All right, 19 here, the Carolina Panthers. A number of ways I can go here too with Carolina. Man, I think what I might do here is I think I might take Keldrick Falk, the edge rusher. I'm not very high on him personally. I think he's a day 2 player for me, but I do think he will go in the top 20. So I think Carolina, who needs help on the interior and edge rusher, and I think Falk can play a little bit of both for you too. Right. So I think he's a guy. Great run defender. You can make an argument he might be the best run defending edge in this entire draft. Very raw as a pass rusher. He's the Michael Williams. He's the Shamar Stewart of this draft class. It's really what he is. To me, I wasn't high on either of those two guys coming out either. And I'm not very high on Keldrick Falk either right now. Again, I think he's more of a second round player. But if predictive mock, I think he is going top 20. And I think for a Panthers team that needs help on the defensive line at both positions, like I said, and he can kind of play both positions for them too. I think this is around the range where I'd expect him to come off the board.
Yeah, no, and I mean, also Jared Evero, top 5 in the league last year in stunts and twists percentage. So yeah. I wonder if that's a way you take a player like Keldrick Falk, who run defense is there. Like this guy's got a nose for playing the run, and he's just got the physicality for it. Could we just like artificially kind of prop him up as a pass rusher for a little bit and buy some time to develop a true pass rush plan? Jalen Phillips, yes, it's a big free agent signing, but a guy who's missed a ton of time. Uman Mielon's kind of a DPR specialist, scoring going into year 2, coming off a good rookie year, but he's just going into year 2. So I don't hate continuing to swing the bat at that position. And also, fact of the matter is, I know Eric Eager's probably not going to let this be like on a linebacker or a tight end. So I'm going to go high position value there. So let's go edge rusher. I like it. And speaking of edge rushers, I thought about Mesidor at 12. So I'm kind of looking at that here. And again, I know they gave up a future 4th, it's only a 4th round pick at the end of the day, but I don't know if I'm giving up any picks in the 2027 class, to be completely honest with you. So kind of a questionable move to me from that standpoint for Dallas, but Rashawn Gary, James Houston, and then Donovan Ezraku, Sam Williams. I don't know. I feel like you could go edge. Then that just kind of leaves the cornerback room being Shavon Ravel, Kalen Carson, Deron Bland, and Kobe Durant, which I don't love, but we've already addressed the secondary. And then the other thing to think about here would be CJ Allen. And to me, let me just double check my big board. CJ Allen versus Akeem Mesidor. I have a feeling I probably have Mesidor just a little bit higher. I do weigh position value into my rankings, so that definitely is probably part of it. Let me see if I can find them. No, actually, I got Allen just slightly ahead. I got Allen just by a little bit. So I think I might do that. Yeah. Oh, no, I had that wrong. Sorry, I have Mesidor. Mesidor 38, Allen 42. So if I'm going off my board, I feel like I got to go Mesidor. But I will say, CJ Allen next to DeMarvion Overshown is about as ideal of a 1-2 punch on the inside as you can get. Overshown, former safety, I think still coming off the injury too. I still think the run defense component of his game is still kind of coming along, and that's CJ Allen's bringing that and then some. And then on the flip side, Allen, not the best coverage player in the world, still developing that skill set. Overshown, he moves so well in space. I mean, you could see that former safety background coming into play. So Mesidor or Allen, man, I don't hate either one, but it's damn. I hate having 2 good options. You know what? I'm going to go Mesidor because I haven't really done it, specifically here at 20. Maybe I've done it once at 12, but I'm going to go with Akeem Mesidor. They're switching at 3-4, and I'm a little worried about him and Ezraku both playing the run at the same time. But, man, when you get those guys, you get a team at a 3rd and 10. It's the 4th quarter, and you're up by 10. Holy cow, those 2 guys are going to make the life of an opposing offense pretty miserable. So I like it a lot from that standpoint. So I'd be curious to see how Christian Parker would handle all that coming in as the new DC. So I'll go with Akeem Mesidor there at 20 because I have done Allen a good bit there.
Yeah, makes sense. Pittsburgh here.
All right, here you go. Take it away, Max. I have burned so many. I have so many Steelers fans telling me that I'm not actually a Steelers fan because I told you this at the Senior Bowl. I'm pretty convinced it's going to be Ty Simpson, but as another Steelers fan, I'd love to hear your thoughts where you think receiver, quarterback, what ultimately do you think the Pittsburgh Steelers do at 21? Also, we have Vega Ioane there, so that's kind of a home run.
Vega Ioane would be a home run. That's
probably where I'm leaning right now. I tend to think Mike McCarthy is going to ride it out with Aaron Rodgers and maybe ride into the sunset. I don't know if Mike McCarthy is planning on being the head coach past when Aaron Rodgers is playing. We'll see. Maybe we'll see. I don't think I have any intel on that, but that might be a thing where they're like, hey, let's just reunite and see what we can do in Pittsburgh for 1 or 2 years and then see what happens from there. I think Rodgers will be back, by the way, too. Ty Simpson would make sense. I'm going to take Wengert Max because I do think Mike McCarthy – we'll just tell Aaron Rodgers, hey, we're building this around you. We're not going to take another first-round quarterback like Green Bay did with you, either like with Jordan Love. We're going to try to build around you and, get an offensive line better, get a better receiving core for you too, which they did a little bit with getting Michael Pittman Jr. Again, I really think that Mike McCarthy and Aaron Rodgers are in lockstep right now. So I think they'll probably use this pick to help Aaron Rodgers rather than draft his replacement down the line. So I think Wengert Max would make a lot of sense. Replace Spencer Anderson at guard because they need that right now alongside Mason McCormick. I think this makes sense for Pittsburgh. And also this is a steal for Pittsburgh. Also, it's just completely stealing it from LA at 22, who's probably livid that they couldn't get Wengert Max, one pick later at 22. But I'll take Wengert Max here to the Steelers.
And I wonder if the Chargers, if we got to a spot where Minnesota at 18, Carolina at 19, I wonder if in the real draft they're starting to hit up the phones, being hey man, we love Wengert, how can we make this happen? I can totally see where that plays out. But no, I'm with you. That's a great replacement for Sayamalu, and it would be interesting to see. Just the Mike McCarthy hire is so against everything the Steelers have typically done, hiring young guys, having them be around for forever. So I do wonder if this is just we didn't want Mike to leave. We want to win now. I'm not looking to reset. So McCarthy come in. Let's bring Rodgers back and let's see if we can do it. I wonder if it is more of a short-term kind of Band-Aid versus we're going to go get the young guy to be our long-term guy. But anyways, then that takes us to the Chargers there. Applause, by the way. I'm here for the Wengert pick. That would be honestly, with how the free agency kind of period played and us not getting Sam Ollie back, I think Wengert's my top tier wish list pick there at 21.
Yeah.
But maybe we can work. Maybe we'll work the phones. Maybe we'll get back in the first round for Ty. I'm not ready to quit it there. I think Ty's worth a first round pick, but I understand I'm probably in the minority there. Chargers. Would have loved Wengert for sure. It's probably a little early for one of the other guards. As much as I like Pregnon, I like Basantis, 22, just a smidge early for that. And we've already had some trades. I mean, if New England didn't sign Romeo Dobbs, I could see a world where they trade up for a Denzel Boston type. But they've already kind of covered their bases there with Dobbs. So the Chargers, who's their safety room? Tony Jefferson, Elijah Molden, and then, of course, Derwin James kind of plays on the nickel. Because I'm kind of looking at Emmanuel McNeil-Warren and how much they rotate their, just Chris O'Leary, assuming he's going to run a lot of the same stuff Minter was running. Be interested to see them have 3 really good safeties in that rotation. But also, Jermon McCoy, would they be the team to take a swing in the back? Because right now it's Tareeb Steele, Dante Jackson, Cam Hart, and Dane Leonard. So it's kind of giving off Jeffrey Simmons at this point, where if he fell here at 22, I don't think it's the world's biggest need. But if a player again, kind of using what we said about Jordan Tyson earlier, if Jermon McCoy only missed 2 games this last year, he's off the board by 7. Frankly, he's probably going to take the Commanders at the latest. So I think I'm going to go Jermon McCoy here, but let me just double check. What are my edge options? Because I do think edge is a spot where they could definitely use some work as well. I don't know if they're the Cassius Howell team, but maybe with Thule and Mack there. I don't know. If anything, I think they might be a Parker or Young. I just think it's a little early for Pregnon or Basantis. We might have to get a little lucky.
Peter Woods makes some sense, I think, for them too.
Peter Woods would be fun. I do think they could use one more 3-tech. I don't hate that shout. And Peter Woods is almost kind of the same stuff that we're talking about McCoy. McCoy is just injury related. Woods is just more disappointing tape related. But I wonder, and you know what? Yeah, with a little bit of a defensive line change, they bring in Dalvin Tomlinson to play nose, but I felt like Jamari Caldwell could do that. And if you do that, Tyre Tart, Peter Woods is your 3-techs. Yeah, I like that. I like that shot. Let's go Peter Woods. Also, I don't think I've done that in any mocks, at least not anytime recently, not recent enough for me to be able to remember it. And if there's a place to keep him motivated and fired up, because I just felt like midway through this year, he kind of gave up on Clemson. Maybe not gave up. That's kind of a rough term to use, but just felt like maybe, it wasn't the season Clemson was supposed to have. And because of that, he takes a step back. But man, if there's a guy to keep you pumped up and ready to roll, like Jim Harbaugh, boom, you just got sent there. So I like Peter Woods there to the Chargers. I think that's a good landing spot for him in his long-term outlook.
Yeah, I'm still high on him. I think he's still worth a first-round pick. So I think D tackle is probably maybe their biggest need after helping the interior O-line. So I think that makes sense for them. All right, I have the Eagles here. I'm going to stop. This is a Howie Roseman play right here. It might not be a pick that a position that you might think the Eagles need right now, but the player I think is too good to pass up. And I think Howie Roseman's been a killing off of just taking guys that are too good to pass up. Honestly, I'm taking Jermon McCoy here. And I'm going to take him. I know they signed Reek Woolen, but I think it's only a 1-year deal that they signed him to. Have him, Quinyon Mitchell, Cooper DeJean, bam, your secondary set for 10 years. So I think that's the pick I'm going to go with here for Philadelphia. Again, maybe not as big of a need as an edge rusher or maybe more help at receiver or offensive line right now. But I didn't really love the board and how it was setting up there. So I'll just take the best player on the board because I think that's what Howie Roseman's really done his whole career. So I'll take Jermon McCoy here to the Eagles.
And look, the Reek Woolen thing is going to go one of two ways. It's a 1-year deal. So either he's going to have a year where he's healthy and he's got an insane ball production, and someone's going to go sign him to an absolute bag next offseason. Maybe it's the Eagles, but maybe it's someone else. Or he proves not to be worth 1 year's $15 million, and you're probably not bringing him back next offseason anyway. So I kind of like taking a guy who's coming off an injury. You can slow play it, but you're also future-proof in that spot because you can kind of understand Woolen probably won't be back there beyond this upcoming season, just because of the way he plays.
Yeah.
And then here for the Jets, man, I think this is a home run spot. Like, Concepcion's a good football player. Omar Cooper Jr. is off the board, though. I'm going to go Denzel Boston. This is like the physical X receiver they just don't have. Maybe it's Adonai Mitchell, but at this point, it's hard for me to say that with certainty. Obviously, as much as I liked him coming out of Texas, I'll go with Denzel Boston. That makes Garrett Williams either an awesome Z or like one of the league's best slot receivers. And specifically, if you move in the slot, I'd be interested to see like Adonai as a Z. He was kind of slender coming out of Texas too, so like I was kind of a little worried about him against press. But I'd be curious just to see whatever they could get out of him in general. But Denzel Boston plus Garrett Wilson feels like a great 1-2 punch at your receiver spot.
Tremendous. Denzel Boston, I'm very high on him. In fact, I actually make the argument that everyone keeps considering it a big 3 of wide receivers in this class. Yeah, I think it's big 4. I think Denzel Boston's in that grouping. I think he's well worth a pick. The top 20. So I think he's projected late first round right now. I think it's a steal for whoever gets him. And if you're the Jets and you trade back and still get Denzel Boston, who I would consider at 16, that is a plus process there for that front office. So love that pick there for the Jets and love that thought process of trading back to get Denzel Boston too. I have the Bears here. There's a couple ways I can go with this pick. I'm going to go with Emmanuel McNeil-Warren. I considered Caden McDonald too because I think they really need help at D tackle, but safety is also a pretty big need for them. So they did bring in Kobe Bryant, but I think safety is still a need for them right now, and I think McNeil-Warren's going to be a first-round pick somewhere. So again, I was very close between him and Caden McDonald for Chicago, but I think McNeil-Warren would make a lot of sense here in with the Bears too.
Yeah, Dennis Allen still plays a whole lot of single high. So Kobe Bryant as your free, Emmanuel McNeil-Warren as your box safety. I think that's like a home run fit. And yeah, I'm with you. I like the Caden McDonald fit, but like D tackle, Emmanuel McNeil-Warren or Zion Young. It feels like it's going to be like either one of those two guys or some defensive tackle. Like I really do feel like it's one of those 3 directions there for the Bears at 25. But I love the EMW fit. Bills. Oh man. I mean, look. I will probably make this pick be Caden McDonald if I'm going to stick and make the pick here, just because I think they need Jim Leonard coming over from Denver, who is this kind of DJ Jones for this defense. I don't think they have a true nose tackle. But that being said, I am open to trading back. Let's talk about Pittsburgh. I know we kind of talked about Ty Simpson, and maybe you can give me your overall thoughts. Would the Bills here? They don't have a second round pick. 53. It'd probably take 53 and 76 to move up to 26. The Steelers have 3/3. We're not getting there today, but. Do you think there's a possibility if it played out this way, Pittsburgh moving back in the first round? Do you think the Bills are a team that maybe the idea of trading out of the first round makes sense? And then overall, like I know we talked about it a little bit with Ty, but like kind of where you are with Ty Simpson, would you take him late round 1, or are you more like, I'll take that swing the bat round 2, kind of where you are in that conversation?
No, I think he's worth a late first round pick for sure. I think he's a good prospect overall, and I think Pittsburgh would be wise to do it. And the Bills, like you mentioned, their next pick is 91 overall, and then 126 after that. Like they do not have a lot of picks in this draft, so it would make sense to stockpile a couple more picks on day 2 for Buffalo. So I think it would make sense if you want to do it for Pittsburgh. I think it makes a lot of sense for them here. So I think they need to get help at quarterback.
Yeah, and double checking the trade chart, it might take a little bit more. So we'll just throw in 135. We got a couple of different 4th round options there. So, but 3 picks, for the Bills when it's 26 to 91. So. Let's go ahead and we'll force this one. And then Pittsburgh Steelers will come up and they will take Ty Simpson. The other thing is like the Steelers are hosts of the draft this year. And, sometimes I overblow that, but it's also one of these things where, the Packers last year, for the first time in 20 something years, we drafted a receiver, like I can see where the Steelers still want to make a splash like that. And if they get Wengert at 21, it also doesn't have to be Ty, right? Like maybe they love Casey Concepcion and he becomes the first Steelers receiver to be drafted in the first round since Antonio Holmes. Right? Like there's a couple different directions where the Steelers can make a huge splash and really catch people off guard. So if it's not for Ty, I do think like Casey, this trade up, that could totally make some sense too.
Yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense.
All right, 49ers, what do you want to do here at 27?
San Francisco. I think what I'm going to do here is just take I'm going to take TJ Parker, who I'm still very high on in this class. I think he's a really good player. I think the Clemson shortcomings this year had nothing to do with him, honestly. I thought he was better than Peter Woods was this past year, too. I think TJ Parker, he's getting a little more disrespected more than he should be in this draft process right now. So he's a late first-round pick for most people. I think he's my number 3 edge in this class. So, yeah, I'm going to take TJ Parker here. The Niners need help on the defensive line even more. I know they drafted Michael Williams last year. They took 2 day 2 defensive tackles, but Williams and Bosa both got hurt. And even when Williams was on the field, didn't look very good. I mean, they had arguably the worst defensive line in football last year. And I think just adding more to it. I know you spent premium picks on it already, but adding more to it is a necessity. I think TJ Parker, like I said, to me is a steal here at 27.
And I know it's a new DC coming in, Raheem Morris, but this has been a team that historically is more than comfortable collapsing edge rushers inside. So, like, I think Michael Williams, like, if he takes that leap forward as a pass rusher in year 2, you're just in a great spot here. You're San Francisco. Like, TJ Parker comes in, you know what you're getting. Like, I don't think he's like the highest ceiling, but he's also like a pretty high floor. Like, he just kind of has like this narrow range of outcomes that are all pretty good. So him plus, and this is weird to say, like Bosa, he's creeping up on 30. He was actually, I just looked this up. He was born 2 days before my fiance. So weird to say that someone 2 days older than my fiance is getting old. But
yeah, Joe, careful there, TJ. Don't ever say that again. Careful what you're saying there, right? But yeah,
she's out. God bless. I live an incredible life. She's an incredible person. She's out shopping right now for the week. So like, I got to get away with it here. But yeah, no, it's weird to say that about a guy, but that was weird to see. But yeah, no, I like TJ Parker. And then if Michael Williams does take that step forward, collapse him inside on passing downs, I think you're still in a really good spot. And you mentioned the injuries too. Houston at 28. I know I said I didn't love the value at 22, but this might be the spot where I do go guard. I could also see this team going interior defensive line. But the thing is, like, there's so many options available at IDL at this spot. At 38, like, why be the first to draft any of these 4 guys when I can just get whoever's there at 38? So, like, I almost wonder if they would just rather be a little bit quicker to this apple, so to speak, with the interior offensive line versus the interior defensive line. And I think I'm going to make it be Pregnon. Yeah, I think he weighed in at 315 at the combine, but he also had tested really, really well, better than I frankly thought. As good as he is in the zone blocking scheme, I didn't see 98th percentile 40 coming for Emmanuel Pregnon. So I would say his playing weight is probably closer to 320, but this is a big guy who can still move. So I think he kind of fits in with Nick Caley coming from the Rams. They want to run some gap stuff. They still want to play some zone. I think Pregnon's kind of the filler piece there on that interior offensive line that can kind of do a little bit of both. And also, like, this is all, I think he can play left or right, but it's also, I don't know exactly what's going to happen with Braden Smith. A lot of word is that he's going to play guard when that signing happened, but it's also like, he's been an NFL right tackle, and you need a right tackle. So why? So however it shakes out, I think Pregnon's a starter somewhere. Either of those 2 guard spots.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think Pregnon's a top 32 player in this draft. I think he's the best guard in college football this past year. So I'm a lot higher on him than I think what he's projected. We're probably a 2nd-round pick right now, but I'm with you. I think you could go in the 1st round. I wouldn't bat an eye at it, honestly. I'm sprinting this card in for Avion Terrell for Kansas City. I think this is a home run pick. And honestly, to me, it's a grand slam draft for Kansas City, getting Mekhi Lemon and then Avion Terrell later on. I mean, you traded away Trent McDuffie. You have a glaring need at corner. You get a really good corner in Avion Terrell. You have a glaring need at wide receiver. You get my wide receiver 1 in Mekhi Lemon as well. This is, like I said, this board fell perfectly for Kansas City here. It didn't work out in the beginning where they couldn't get Mansour Delane, but honestly, the way it worked out for them, I think is even better than the opposite, where it would have been like, say, a Casey Concepcion and Mansour Delane. I would rather have Mekhi Lemon and Avion Terrell than that. Yeah. So I think this is a perfect scenario for Kansas City in this mock draft.
Dude, and I'm looking at the measurables right now. Like, this is like giving the Jesse Pinkman, they can't keep getting away with this meme.
Yeah.
Avion Terrell, 5'10 3/4, 186 pounds. The man they just traded, Trent McDuffie, 5'10 3/4, 193 pounds. And the arm length's a little different there too, but like Terrell, who can play inside and out, would be a badass nickel, just like McDuffie was at the beginning of his career. Like, this feels like as much as it's hard to say you just replaced one guy with the exact same type, that would be high praise for Terrell. But I mean, it feels like you got a very similar player here with Davion Terrell falling to you at 29. So that's kind of a home run. Like you said, perfect draft, really, first round wise for the Chiefs. We'll see how I can mess it up at 40. So Dolphins here at pick 30. Let me remind myself. We went O-line, right?
Yeah,
okay,
Mount yeah.
All right, so let me double check. I mean, this dude.
They're probably praying for Davion Terrell to go to 30, man.
Yeah, you could go Concepcion here, and really this comes down to and frankly, you want a surprise first round pick name. I think specifically for this scheme, I could see Chris Johnson being that guy that sneaks in there.
Good.
Low key, D'Angelo Pons. I could see where this team's just good football players. We don't have enough of them. Like D'Angelo Pons, come on down as a surprise first round name. And I think the Dolphins are one of the weird teams that could do it. So yeah, this really comes down to Casey or corner. Who is their wide receiver room right now? It's Malik Washington and I know not much else. Tutu Atwell and Jalen Tolbert. Yeesh. But yeah, also their corner room is headlined by Storm Duck and Darrell Baker Jr. So also super sheesh. Well, let me also think about this at 43. Who is probably there at 43? Chris Bell, Jeremy Bernard, Brazel. I definitely like Concepcion more than those guys. And then on the corner side of things, if we don't go Hood or one of those other guys now, I do think Chris Johnson pounds Cisse. One of those guys is there at 43. So I'm going to go with Casey Concepcion, keep the speed element somewhat there. Also a guy who played 65% of his snaps outside, and this team needs outside receiver talent. So he's not an X. You would like to keep him away from press coverage as much as you can. But he also, I think, from what I saw, despite not being someone who's huge or anything like that, 5'11", and I think he was 193 at the combine. He played pretty well against press too. So kind of he's Tank Dell-ish, where it's this guy is good enough getting off the line of scrimmage, and he's got home run speed. So press at your own, buyer beware. So I'll go Casey Concepcion there for the Miami Dolphins. And ironically enough, a guy I mocked a ton of the Broncos at 30. So it's kind of funny. He's just penciled in there at 30, no matter what.
Love it. All right, I have the New England here, 31. This is tough because I'm between two players, and Blake Miller, who I think could be the next right tackle for them after Morgan Moses retires, which I think would be a really good pick for them. I think where I might go here, though, I might take I will go Blake Miller. The only one I would shout out, though, is Caden McDonald, because, they are solid at D tackle with Milton Williams and Corey Durden and Christian Barmore. All three of those guys, though, are far better pass rushers than they are run defenders. Caden McDonald, they need help with run defense in the middle of their defensive line right now. Caden McDonald would be a perfect fit for them, too. You look at all three of them, all three of Williams, Durden, and Barmore had sub 50 run defense grades this year. So they were really, really bad in run defense in the middle of their defensive line. McDonald would fix that instantly, but I do think Blake Miller, they might go tackle and try to get, the long-term pairing of Will Campbell and Blake Miller, because I think Morgan Moses, his days are numbered most likely. So I'll take Blake Miller here, but I do want to shout out Caden McDonald, because I do think he would fit a big need for them in the middle of their defensive line too.
No, I like that a ton. I've been mocking Miller there a lot, but I haven't even really thought about Caden McDonald for this team. But no, I think you're spot on, considering it's Milton Williams, Barmore, two pass rush specialists. And also, I'm trying to think, was Vrabel there when they drafted Tavondre, or was that the year after? If it's the year after, you can ignore it. But with Tavondre Sweat that year in Tennessee, I could see where he's I need a guy like that. So, all right, then we get to Seattle. This is honestly, more often than not, this has been where I've been putting Keldrick Falk. When you look at his measurables to Tank Lawrence coming out of Boise State, pretty similar. I wonder if they could just draft a year in advance for that. I think it's a little early to go running back. Edge is an interesting shout off the PFF needs. Let me double check. Yeah, what is their edge room looking like? Again, Leonard Williams, one more year on his contract. Tank Lawrence, one more year on his deal. Then it's Jared Ivey, Leonard Williams. Okay, so edge. Yeah, low key, I could definitely see where edge is maybe the option. Well, maybe I'll just do because I do think they could go corner here and get some depth, but I also wonder if there's some options they could, attack that position at 64 with Devin Moore, or I don't know, even a Chandler Rivers, and just try to make it work. I don't know. So I think I'm going to go edge. Could be this. I was going to steal Dalton's idea and go Zion Young, but could this be the team that makes Cassius Howell work?
Could.
Give Mike McDonald, as if Mike Mack needs any more weapons, but just let him have this guy who's let's cash this out. Let's do cash this out. And especially when you look at the two starting guys, Leonard Williams, DeMarcus Lawrence, two bigger guys who play the run at a high level, then you get to just unleash Cassius Howell whenever you feel like it. That feels kind of
he'd fit the Boyd Mafe
exactly
void left behind. Yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense for Seattle, I think.
Perfect. Round one's wrapped. Let's go cash this towel there at 32, and you get to lead us off here with the Jets at 33.
Yeah, Jets at 33. So we took Arvell Reese and Denzel Boston already. I think I might go back to the. I'm just making sure I'm not missing anyone. I think I might go back to the defensive side of the ball here with this next pick. I think I might take Colton Hood, the corner out of Tennessee. I think he is. I actually just watched him recently because we're doing our top 10 corners this upcoming week. I liked him a lot more than I thought I would going into it, honestly. So, really good athlete, really good sticky man coverage. They need help at corner with Sauce Gardner, of course, gone now. So yeah, I'll take Colton Hood here for the Jets at 33.
And look, if Aaron Glenn is not fired by like week 6 or whatever, like this is the type of corner he wants.
Yeah,
physical man press, go get your guy at the line of scrimmage, and like. If there's a world where you can move on from Brandon Stevens in that contract, that would be ideal. And then if Azari Thomas can figure it out, like Hood plus Thomas, like that's Aaron Glenn DNA through and through on the outside. So Cardinals. So we didn't go tackle, and fortunately enough, boom, Max Chadwick. And also, Connor Rogers was doing interviews at the Combine. He said Caleb Lomu's been training left and right side. So frankly, we could also go Caleb Lomu here if we think that that's warranted in like, hey, maybe he could play right tackle. And for what it's worth, I do have Lomu as a higher ranked tackle than I do Iheanacho. As much as I'm intrigued by the upside of Max Iheanacho, and I thought his second and third day at the Senior Bowl were really, really strong. The team also does need a linebacker, so I'm also looking at CJ Allen. It's like, all right, how much longer do we want to let him stay on the board?
Iheanacho makes a lot. If you think Lomu can play right tackle, he'd probably be my pick because I think he's going to be a first round pick. I think in the actual draft, but. Iheanacho makes a lot of sense because he is a right tackle, so I think that would be
we've been hitting the low moving costs pretty hard, so like that.
That's true. That's true.
But the drive from Utah, the move from Utah to Arizona isn't too bad.
Yeah.
And you know what? I'm gonna say Lomu, and I'm gonna buy into what he was talking with Connor about training on both sides. And frankly, with Lomu, I never thought his outside shoulder was all that great. I think he does. There's just a lot of other things he does well, specifically in pass protection, but I don't think that outside hand and outside shoulder is awesome. So I don't think that's something you have to keep on the left side. I think he could be a guy that makes sense for that transition to the right side. So, and also his pass protecting, I could see where Mike LaFleur looks at that and he's like, give me the pass rush or the pass protection upside of Lomu over someone like Iheanacho. So then we get to the Titans after they took Jeremiah Love at 4. How do you want to follow this one up?
Yeah, this is tough. I think what I'm going to do, this is actually really tough. I'll go with Zion Young here, I think, for Tennessee because they passed on edge with the first pick.
Right.
Just making sure I didn't miss any interior offensive linemen. I mean, Besantis would fit a need there too, but I kind of like Zion Young a little bit more. So I'll go with Zion Young here because I think they need to. I think I would actually, you know what? I'm going to definitely go Zion Young because I would be shocked if Tennessee goes with their first top 35 picks. If they don't take a defensive player at all under Robert Saleh, I'd be floored. So I'll go Zion Young here. I'd be really surprised if they go back-to-back offensive picks at 35 or in the top 35.
And what I'll say is, center and right guard does look rough, but you pick at 66. I don't know where you're at with like Billy Scrouth, and then you pick at 101. Like I think those are two good picks to where if you came away with someone of the likes of, let's take a look here.
Jake Slaughter, man. You get Jake Slaughter at 101. That's like a dream pick, I think, for Tennessee.
Exactly. And I think you can, Cordell Volson's not great at right guard, but I'd rather see him on the field than Austin Schlottman, just kind of where I'm at right now. So, I'm trying to think about who else. Yeah, I like Billy Scrouth as a third-round guy. Keelan Rutledge, if he makes it to you at 66, that's it's almost like a perfect Kevin Zeitler replacement who they just let walk. So, I'm with you. And then, dude, Zion Young, John Franklin Myers can be a guy who moves inside and out. Zion Young, that is the second-round version of Michael Williams. And, like, Robert Zoll is just the guy who drafted Michael Williams.
Exactly, yeah.
100%. All right, so the Raiders, fresh off Mendoza. To be honest, I'd love to go secondary here. They bring back Eric Stokes. But that other corner spot I still think can definitely use an upgrade. Darian Porter, that's tough. But specifically their safeties. That being said, though, we've kind of exhausted their safety options. So if we were doing a third round, we would
McDonald kind of staring you in the face too.
But Cade McDonald, it's Cade McDonald. I'm doing the Trevor on NFL SE. I'm hyping up all these names. So that way when we get to my real name, I've exhausted all options here. Well, I'm going to go Caden McDonald. And I kind of feel for Raiders fans because that's probably so boring to see. Every time Caden gets out of the first round, I mock him 36 to the Raiders. But look, they've had a Christian Wilkins-size hole since that experience kind of flamed out. So, I'm going to go with McDonald there at 36. And then, ideally third round, maybe was it 67? If you don't go Elijah Surratt or something like that, that's a good spot to take a safety like maybe Zakee Wheatley from Penn State.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense. That would have been a dream pick for my next pick here, the Giants. I think they need help at detail.
Oh, yeah, totally.
That'd be unreal, Dexter Lawrence there. But, I got Giants up next. I hate to say you just force a position, but I think they're really in a boat right now where they might have to. Because I'm just trying to look at the receivers right now because I feel like they almost need to take a receiver, one of these. Yeah, picks.
Receiver and corner are like the two spots where it's like you look at their depth chart and you're like, oof.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good shot on corner too. I think corner is a need.
Yeah, they could use an X. But the tough part is I don't know if there's a true other than Chris Bell. Bell could be an outside X receiver.
Yeah, I just don't know if Bell goes that high either. I think what I'm going to do, I'll probably do they do the Tennessee wide receiver experiment again after Jalen Hyatt flamed out?
Sure. Brazel, that's kind of the X vertical guy.
I've
also done Bernard here. I don't love him as an X. His arms aren't as long as you would like for that, but I think he's a guy who can be a sacrificial X, but then can play some Z and slot, move around, and just be an ultimate complement. So
I think I'm going to go with Brazel, and I know Giants fans are probably cringing at taking another Tennessee wide receiver. I think he's a little bit different than the other ones.
Totally.
But yeah, I'm going to go with him here. I just think after taking Sonny Styles in the first round, I'd be surprised if they didn't take or spend the number 37 pick on someone to help out Jackson Dart in some way. And I think receivers are biggest need offensively. So I think Brazel would kind of fit a need for them there and be kind of the deep threat for Jackson Dart there too.
And what I would say, homework assignment for Giants fans. If you look at this and you're like, oh my God, they just did it again. Watch every non-touchdown route run by Jalen Hyatt, or not even route run. Watch every non-touchdown reception from Jalen Hyatt and every non-touchdown reception for Chris Brazel. Because Brazel's gotten his touchdowns too, and a lot of them are on the vertical plane. But and I use this example all the time. I think it's his third route run against the Georgia defense in that game where he has a ton of vertical touchdowns. But he runs this out route where you see him sink his hips way more than you ever saw from Frederick Tillman and Jalen Hyatt. And he creates 7 yards of separation. So this is a guy that has a whole lot more nuance into his bag than Hyatt and those guys who came before. So I personally have him as a top 50 guy in the class, so I don't hate it at 37. Houston, so yeah, this is kind of the home run spot here. We'll go defensive interior, and ultimately, Caden McDonald's the only guy of the options we had at 28. He's the only one gone. So I'm going to probably go Christian Miller just because I'd love to see what they can, his arm length, and he's already a great run defender, but I wonder with that frame, what pass rush upside is still to be had with Christian Miller, and to be coached by D'Amico Ryans, that would fire me up. That being said, and I'm not going to do it, but I've always, this entire cycle, I've been the guy who's I'll let someone else have Caleb Banks. That's just someone else's swing of the bat. This would be the one team where if D'Amico Ryans pulled the trigger on Caleb Banks here at 38, I'd be like, okay, that's smelling salts for me all day. I'm pumped up to see where that goes. So I'll go Christian Miller based off my preference, but Caleb Banks, coached by D'Amico Ryans, could be fun.
Yeah, predictive-wise, probably Caleb Banks is the move, but I'm with you. I think Christian Miller's a better football player. I have him over Banks in my D-tackle rankings too, and I love Christian Miller, man. I was blown away by him. So love that pick there at 38 for Houston. All right, the Browns here, who took Carnell Tate and Monroe Freeling. This is tough. Man, just there's no quarterback I'll take here, obviously.
Can I sell you on a nickel corner?
Yeah.
A Pons or a Keontae Scott to replace Miles Harden?
Yeah, that could probably be good. That's a good call.
And also, I just look at how those guys tackle, and I'm like, those guys, they fit that madness that you have to play a Browns, as a Brown defender.
Yeah, I think that's a good call. I was kind of looking at linebackers too, because I feel like unfortunately, Jeremiah Osu-Corbo is just, I think his career is over. So,
yeah. And dude, CJ Allen next to Carson Schlesinger.
I forgot CJ Allen's still here. I'm taking CJ Allen. Yeah, I totally forgot he's still here. I think he's going in the first round. I think the nickel corner spot's a really good call because I think that is a quiet need right now on their team. But CJ Allen. I mean, I think he's going in the first round. I actually didn't love him as much as I thought.
Sure.
I would when I watched his tape, and I would not take him in the first round. But for the Browns, like I said, the other linebacker spot next to Schlesinger is a big hole right now. And I think CJ Allen. I mean, if he's here at 39, I would almost. I think it's probably the pick that the Browns would take. I would say 39.
I have Allen as my off-ball 4 and Josiah Trotter as my off-ball 3, and then Rodriguez right behind those guys. And to me, 3 and 4, Trotter and Allen, they're a little more similar. They're the type of guys that when you're a hammer, everything looks like a nail. Like those guys are just going to play the run, fit the lanes, all that sort of stuff. At such a high level, the coverage side is definitely a work in progress. That being said, the way I described Carson Schlesinger was as a tractor beam of the football, and then you throw on next to him a hammer hitting a nail. Oh, dude, oh my God. That might be one of the most fun linebacker tandems you could set up in the entire league. And I don't talk about linebackers in that way very often. So. And I also say that as a Steelers fan, I don't want to see that twice a year, but frankly, would be pretty freaking awesome. Okay, man, Chiefs here at 40. So we've gone receiver and corner. All right, so edge or edge defensive interior. Lee Hunter's kind of the safe play, and if you throw him in a rotation with Omar Norman-Lott and Chris Jones, it makes a lot of sense on paper. But that being said, I think this might be the spot where I take the swing of the bat on Caleb Banks. Yeah. Just because the upside is there, and he's another guy like Chris Jones who's got experience moving up and down the D line. And since they do that with Jones, maybe they could develop Banks into being, the guy they pass the torch to for that reason. Let me make sure I'm not missing on an edge rusher that's blatantly obvious as a needy. Malachi Lawrence would be kind of sick.
Yeah, that's. I'm with you on Banks. So I think, and also that's a kind of if he's learning on. I think whoever he's learning from as a mentor is huge for his development. And I think Chris Jones is the perfect guy for him. So that makes a lot of sense for them.
Yeah, so let's go Caleb Banks there, and hopefully this is the passing the torch situation, and frankly, hopefully Norman Lott gets together, can play a decent amount of snaps, and then hopefully you've got 3 guys that are all badasses rushing from the interior / you can move Banks and Jones around. I will say Malachi Lawrence, there have been mocks where I give the Chiefs David Bailey at 9, and I've kind of described it as if this team could have a Dwight Freeney type, what Freeney was for the Colts back then, fourth quarter time for you to close this game out. Malachi Lawrence is an interesting second-round version of that, so I did consider Malachi Lawrence there at 40, but I like Caleb Banks there. I think that's, like you said, good landing spot for him career-wise.
Yeah, love it. All right.
Lee Hunter here for the Bengals, which conveniently feels like a really good fit.
It could. Yeah, I could. I'm going to go elsewhere on the defense, though. Okay. I'm going to go J-Rod, Jacob Rodriguez, linebacker out of Texas Tech. Love this guy. I take him in the first round, I think, right now. It's hard to find too many questions now after the combine that he had, honestly. I mean, he had the highest graded year we've ever had for a power forward linebacker. He was historically good at linebacker. I legit should have been in New York for the Heisman ceremony, in my opinion. Yeah, I would take him here at 41 for Cincinnati, who just need help at linebacker. You can make an argument linebackers their biggest need on their team right now. And I think J-Rod is probably he's probably going to go around this range, I think. So I would take him here. I think this is the perfect spot for him here at 41. And the Bengals can get Caleb Downs and Jacob Rodriguez. I'd be very happy if I was a Bengals fan. That is almost a dream first 2 days or first 2 rounds, I should say, for Cincinnati.
And I probably shouldn't say, and I won't say the specific amount, but the amount of money I've won betting on tight end props against the Bengals is absurd the last 3 to 5 years. They have been so bad defending the middle of the field. So now you're telling me Caleb Downs and Jacob Rodriguez are now all of a sudden I can't make those bets anymore. And I like Demetrius Knight, but to replace Barrett Carter with J-Rod would be a home run. J-Rod, to your point, I think he could go late one. If Carolina moves back, that could be the way of softening the blow of drafting a linebacker for Eric Eager in that crew. New Orleans Saints. I'm of 2 minds here. Lee Hunter on paper next to Brian Brzee, home run. Brian Brzee's just not been that good. But what he has brought to the table is pass rush juice, if anything. But that being said, they pick at 73, and I wonder if in that spot, whether it's Dominique Orange, it's Darrell Jackson Jr., or it's the Godfather, Dante Corleone. Frankly, Rashawn Benny. I kind of love that this predictive board's got him in the top 100. I wonder if there's another run specialist D tackle they could get at 73 or slightly later. I'm going to go Chris Bell. We talked about they need that X receiver, a guy to play on the outside, and then you throw on top of that Tyler Shuck reuniting with Chris Bell. I think that's going to be the direction I go. I'm going to go Chris Bell there at 42.
Yeah, I love that. I think Chris Bell is, obviously the injury is a concern, but I think he actually is progressing very
fast.
I've heard that he'll be ready by week 1. If not, he'll be.
I heard like even training camp, dude, which is crazy considering when he got hurt like in November, right? So it's nuts. So it's awesome to see that from Chris Bell. This one here is pretty easy. I'm not that high on this player, but I do think he's going to go somewhere in this range in the top 40. That's Brandon Cisse, the corner out of South Carolina. We did not take a corner or any defensive back at all for Miami yet with Malago and Concepcion. And like I said before, they have the worst receiving core in football and the worst secondary in football. So Miami with this pick, I think the fact that they've gone offense back-to-back, they have to take a DB here at 43. And I think Cisse, you can make an argument Cisse, consensus-wise, right now is actually the best player on the board. I'm not as high on him. I have other corners above him that are still available here, like D'Angelo Pons and Chris Johnson. You can see right there too. But I wouldn't do it. But I do think Brandon Cisse goes somewhere in this range. I'll take him here to the Dolphins.
Yeah, I have Chris Johnson one spot ahead of Cisse too. So I was kind of leaning in that direction. But I do think I'm curious to hear your thoughts on Cisse. But I do think there's a lot of really solid coverage ability in there, and he's a freaky athlete. So taking him inside the top 50 wouldn't shock me whatsoever. And then to the Jets. All right, so we've gone, in theory, edge rusher, wide receiver, and corner. Where are the Jets at elsewhere? I mean, I'm kind of intrigued by the idea of like Josiah Trotter. I know earlier I said maybe we could have a little bit of Arvell Reese playing a little bit of both. But Demario Davis being the mentor for Josiah Trotter feels pretty ideal. And then Jeremy and Sherwood, I think you can definitely get better there. They could also just double dip at edge. Like it's Will McDonald, it's Kingsley and Agbury, it's Joseph Osai, and then Arvell Reese. So or safety. Hold on, what safeties are here? Because Mink is there, but that's kind of a band-aid. So Halsey or Trotter, really, this is kind of what it's going to come down to for me here after looking at it. Golday's kind of interesting too. The PFF board got Halsey higher, but I really like Trotter. But I will say Halsey would be sick. I'm going to go AJ Halsey. Yeah, I'm going to go AJ Halsey. Pair him up with Minkah Fitzpatrick. For a team that had no turnovers last year to then have those two safeties. I mean, no interceptions. Sorry, no turnovers. I'm kicking the Jets while they're down. No interceptions last year. Those two guys at your safety spot alone will at least have one each, minimum. And frankly, if they only come away with one each, that's still pretty disappointing. So I kind of like that 1-2 punch. And then also Minkah Fitzpatrick. He's not long for this team, to be honest. So AJ Halsey is their long-term headlining safety. Yeah,
no, I'm with you on that. I think I actually just put together my safety rankings recently. We'll do that pretty soon on the show. And I actually had Halsey as safety 3 above McNeil Warren, actually.
Nice.
So I know it's kind of a hot take considering those 3 are probably going to be the first-round picks, and Halsey would be a second-round pick. But I liked Halsey a lot, man, so I'm a big fan of it.
McNeil Warren sometimes is a little reckless with his tackling. Like sometimes he gives off the energy of playing at Toledo, and I'm better than everyone. So sometimes he gets a little sloppy with it. So and versus Halsey, it's like, dude, he might not have insane range, but like if you're coming over the middle field, like be ready to either get wallops or for him to jump that pass. Like he's just got killer instincts and he hurts. Like the hits he has on tape are pretty crazy.
Yeah. All right, Baltimore. I could go back-to-back interior O-line considering they need help at center and guard and say, Fano can play center and Basantis can play guard for us. But I think what I'm going to do instead is take Malachi Lawrence, the edge rusher out of UCF. I even, with Trey Hendrickson going there, I still think they could use help at edge rusher. So I think Malachi Lawrence is probably the pick I would go with here. Besides, if they want to go back-to-back interior line, it makes sense. There's not a receiver. I was looking at receiver too. There's not really a receiver I like in this range. So I'll go Malachi Lawrence because I think he will be a top 50 pick in the draft.
Yeah, I love the Lawrence ad there. The only other thing I would have said maybe to think about is like Eli Stowers. Like could Stowers be the team's Isaiah Likely replacement? Holy shit, that'd be so fun. But also like the Ravens aren't typically the team that's like other than Charlie, was it Charlie Hurst? Yeah, the 25-year-old tight end, former baseball player. Outside of that, they don't normally draft tight end all that high. So all right, the Bucs. I feel like I kind of got to go edge here. R. Mason definitely could make a lot of sense here. Kind of feels a little redundant with Yaya Diaby there, but that being said, like Yaya, I don't think has lived up to what they wanted. Chris Brazzell's had a hard time seeing the field. Al-Qadim Muhammad, Yaya Diaby. Yeah, I kind of feel like you got to go edge here. So the tricky part with that is like Akis, he's got experience playing with his hand in the dirt and as a stand-up rusher. Versus like I know what R. Mason is as a pass rusher. Akis is definitely better against the run though. I like Derek Moore,
Go
GDS.
linebacker too, with Golday and Anthony Hill Jr.
You know what? Now that you mention that, yeah, Golday. If Golday's here, I feel like that's we're Trotter. But with Angela, I think I'm going to go Golday. I think I'm going to go Golday. Let's go Golday there. They got to find the guy of the future now that Levante David's officially hung it up. And I think Anzalone plus Golday, that's a nice little 1-2 punch with how they complement each other. And like I said about a couple teams now, this edge group is pretty deep. So if it's your third round swing of the bat, that still could be a solid player for you.
Yeah. I'll actually go back-to-back linebackers here. I'll take Anthony Hill Jr. I'm a little bit lower on him too. I do think he will be a top 50 pick though, so that's why I'm taking him here.
You want Hill over Trotter?
Yeah, I'm a little bit lower on Trotter actually. Sure. I like him. I think he's a really good run defender. The coverage is where I have some issues with him, but Hill's just a flashy player. He's got the game's got to slow down for him still, but all the tools you'd want for in a linebacker, and I think you can make an argument that linebacker is the Colts' biggest need right now. So I'll go with Anthony Hill Jr. because I do think he will be a top 50 pick in the draft, but I'll go with him here to the Colts.
All right, so Colts, welcome to the mock draft. Now Atlanta Falcons, welcome to the mock. Part of me wants to go Chris Johnson because I think he'd be a 6 scheme fit. Great compliment opposite of AJ Terrell. But I'm also looking at receiver and like, good Lord, outside of guys named Drake London, yikes. The tough part is, I guess it comes down to how you feel about Ted Hurst. Brazel would have been a good guy. I think they just need an X, but they also need speed. So like Brazel and Hurst are the two guys that immediately come to mind as fits. They also just hired the wide receiver coach, I believe, from Georgia State. So Hurst makes some sense there. But could you get him in the third round? That's kind of the question. I like him as a top 50 guy. And their third round pick is 79. So middle of the third round. Alternatively, if we don't go corner here, not that we're doing the third round, but your third round corner options start getting pretty thin pretty quick. So I'm going to go Chris Johnson.
Yeah.
Bolster that secondary. And I'm just going to say in this mock, we don't have Ted Hurst go, which would be interesting. If you want to have Hurst go, that's totally fine. But maybe they could get someone like a Ted Hurst in the third round. But I'll go Chris Johnson there, 48.
That makes a lot of sense. I think Chris Johnson's going to go somewhere in that range too.
Loki would have been a great fit here for the Vikings.
I was just going to say, that's what I'm looking to was that. But I think what I'm going to do instead is take Lee Hunter, the D tackle out of Texas Tech. I think D tackle is a big need for Minnesota as well. So got a receiver in Omar Cooper to potentially replace Jordan Addison. And then you turn your attention to the defensive side of the ball with a guy like Lee Hunter too. I think would feed a need there in Minnesota. So I'll take Lee Hunter here for the Vikings.
I love it. And Jordan Reed from ESPN has had this comp for Hunter throughout this entire draft cycle of Kevin Williams. So former Viking legend, Williams Wall.
Hall of Fame, right?
Put that in there. Him plus Jalen Redmond. I would love that for the run defense.
Yeah.
All right, Detroit Lions. I think this is where I'm going to go Akis. You just look at their edge group. I know they brought in DJ Wonham or whatever, but like guys not named Aiden Hutchinson, it's red alert after that. So and they also do need a corner, but at the same time, they paid Reed. They drafted Arnold early enough. They also have Rocky Sin, who's like capable, not great, but capable of playing games. So I'm going to go Gabe Akis. I feel like he's definitely a Lions type. Inside, outside versatility, can stand up, can put his hand in the dirt. I feel like he's kind of a Swiss Army knife for this team. And plus his run defense, Aiden Hutchinson's pretty good against the run. Not amazing, but like his arm length, that just kind of limits it. Akis is a great compliment because of that on the other side of the line.
Love that. Here with the Panthers, I'm gonna go with Eli Stowers, the tight end out of
you dog
out of Vandy. I think they're gonna probably try to surround Bryce Young with more weapons in that team alongside Tedder McMillan, and I think Stowers, who I'm a big fan of, I think it's closer with him and Sadiq than people might think in this class. And they have, the Panthers tight ends right now it's one of the worst tight end groups in football right now. So I think tight end is definitely a need for Carolina. Stowers is going to go somewhere in this range too. I think it just makes too much sense here.
And it kills me to hear you saying that about the tight end room because a couple of former Golden Domers in that mix and Tommy Tremble and Mitchell Evans. So that one hurts. But nonetheless, they just need and like JT Sanders hasn't been that guy either. So replacing like JT Sanders targets with Eli Stowers sounds like a home run to me. So then that takes us to the Green Bay Packers, notoriously the hardest team to draft for in mock drafts. But I don't know if that's the case this time around. Abney, I think, is a guy that makes a lot of sense to play on the outside. Pons, I don't know. They have enough slot types. I do think Pons is going to end up being there. This would have been a good Lee Hunter spot, like defensive interior. Or I wonder if they're just looking to get some edge rush juice to replace Rashawn Gary. Because like last year, as good as like Micah Parsons was when he's playing, if he wasn't bringing the pressure, if he wasn't hitting home, it felt like their pass rush really just wasn't living up to it. So they got Lucas Van Ness who can play inside and out. R. Mason Thomas could be fun, but also I'm kind of looking at Derek Moore, and I'm like, man, that could be speed to power on one side and Micah Parsons on the other. I mean, like, good luck.
Chase Basantis is still here too. I think kind of need guard. That's another thing I'm thinking about. But you're right. The defensive side of the ball is probably where they might be leaning. But
right, hold on, let me double check because we're thinking Jordan Morgan's going to move to tackle, right?
I would expect that. Yeah.
Aaron Banks, then Anthony Belton, which I don't love that. Basantis. Here, let's cheat a little bit. I'm gonna have the Chargers trade up to 52.
There you go.
I'm gonna do a small little AFC NFC trade here. Chargers move up to the Packers. This will cost like a 4th round pick. This will be like next to nothing. 3 spots. Let's just make it 204. I don't think it'll take too much. And this is where we'll have Chase Basantis come off the board, and we'll give the Chargers fans a bone here. Basantis to the Chargers.
Yeah,
and then I'll come back to I'll let you deal with the Packers actually, I guess, because of that. Sorry, forced your hand there. This is with the Steelers pick here, 53 after they make the trade back. What do you want to do? With Buffalo.
Yeah, they actually, didn't even get a pick at all. Yeah, so in the first round. So this is interesting now for Buffalo, considering it's their first pick of the draft now. Basantis would have been an option. However, I just think you got to add more to this defense. So took Jake Golday, right? He's gone.
Golday's gone. Trotter's the last linebacker we got.
Trotter,
64 guys, I would say.
Trotter's an option for sure. Yeah, I'm gonna.
Yeah, I feel like him, or you could go D line, like R. Mason Thomas. I've seen some mocks with Cassius Howell as like a DPR or Nick Benito-esque player. So I wonder if R. Mason could be a guy for them.
Yeah, I kind of like the second and third levels. I think are where they're really weak right now in Buffalo. Sure. So I'll actually go with your guy. I'll go with Josiah Trotter here. I think they need help at in run defense, and Trotter is definitely good at that. Again, I have a lot more questions in coverage with him, which is why he's a little bit lower for me. But Buffalo's looking to get some help in the middle of their defense, whether it be D tackle, linebacker, or safety. And I think Trotter would fit that need.
And I would say Terrell Bernard, Dorian Williams, they kind of bring the coverage aspect a little bit more. So we've seen those guys struggle to stop the run. Really, the Bills, there were a couple games, midway through last year where it's like, oh, everyone runs for 200 yards against the Buffalo Bills, I guess. Trotter, another one of these, when you're a hammer, everyone looks like a nail. He's gonna clean that up. Philadelphia Eagles. Oh, man. Okay, so Jermon McCoy was our pick. And like low key, I look at their safety room and it's not pretty at the moment. So Marcus Epps, Andrew Makuba. Where did Makuba play a majority of his snaps? I almost wonder. I'm not like Kamari Ramsey's coming off a tough year, but for a team that plays a lot of quarters and where he could play true free safety, I wonder if this could be a Kamari Ramsey fit. Let me just see where Makuba played majority of last year, just so I'm not talking out of hand. Andrew.
Yeah, I mean, R. Mason Thomas is still here too.
They do need pass rush still. Yeah.
It's tough.
It's just it's in a weird. We're kind of in a weird spot where we don't really say this all that often. Where there's a few different needs that all kind of make sense for the Eagles. They've almost been the team in our first rounds where it's like, oh, they have such a good roster. What do they want to do here? Oh yeah, he played primarily free safety last year, so and it's probably a little. As much as I love Zakee Wheatley, I'm a big Zakee Wheatley guy. You probably make that pick in the 3rd round. Hugo Max, Ian Achour too, future Lane Johnson replacement.
I forgot he's still here, man. Damn.
Yeah, we're verified Ian Achour haters. Wow,
actually, I forgot. I probably would have made that pick earlier. I actually totally forgot he was still on the board. Yeah, damn.
So their edge room right now is Nolan Smith, Jalix Hunt, Arnold Ebiketie. Yeah, yikes. They need like an infusion of power. What? Yeah, that's like I would go R. Mason Thomas, but I feel like they already have enough of these like DPR types. Is it Derek Moore? Is Derek or DDS? I think I'm gonna go Derek Moore.
Okay.
Like if you're gonna replace Brandon Graham, of the guys here, like Derek Moore to me probably has the closest place out of that, just like pure speed to power, natural leverage, things like that. But Deni Dennis-Sutton is going to go higher than I think where consensus and kind of like media coverage has him going. I think he's going to be a top 75 player. And Philadelphia would be a spot that like I could totally see where they like the goods that he brings to the table. So I'll go Derek Moore, but honorable mention for DDS.
Love it. Yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense for them.
All right, so now I give you Green Bay. At least we moved back, so we had some chance to kind of think about this.
Yeah.
You don't have Chase Pasantis. Sorry, I took that one off the board for you. But I do think your offensive line still does make sense if there's a guy here you like.
Yeah, I was thinking of that. D-line or corners I like.
You still got Keith Abney here.
I'm going to go D'Angelo Ponce. I think that's what I'm going to do.
Oh, dude.
Yeah, that's my guy, man. I love that guy. I think he's such an awesome football player. I know he's small, but he's just been so nails through 3 years at James Madison in Indiana. So I'll go with him here. I think he's actually, I just looked at my corner ranking. I think he's my CB4 in this class, honestly. So I'm high on him. He's my top corner after the first round guys of McCoy, Delane, and Terrell. So I love D'Angelo Ponce, and I would take him a lot higher than this, but this seems like the range he might go because of his size.
I like it. And what I will say, they've also been playing a lot more zone the last couple of years. Right. So, and D'Angelo Ponce is kind of like the guy where I don't like to draft outliers, but if we blinked and we're 8 years in the future and he's like the next Darius Williams or like Brandon Flowers, where it's like, how's that guy playing on the outside all the time? Like that shouldn't make sense given his size. He's just a good football player. I can totally see where he's the next version of that. Jaguars. I'll be completely honest. I mean, we've kind of tapped the linebacker well pretty dry at this spot. Kyle Lewis would be insane from a coverage standpoint, and like Foyesé Oluokun is like a tackling machine. So infrastructure-wise, I think the Jags actually might be a spot where it could make sense for Kyle Lewis. But also at the end of the day, Kyle Lewis is probably just a nickel corner. And they've got a couple guys that kind of fit that billing, Jaron Jones and Jordan Lewis. So, man, we still got Jeremy Bernard here, too. That's kind of crazy. We're absolutely hating on some of these people. Trading Stooks, too. I think what I'm going to do, and I'd be curious to hear your thoughts on him. I know you guys put out your defensive tackle ranking, so I've already heard this. But for our 32 audience, I'm going to go Grayson Halton. I'd love to hear your thoughts on him as a prospect. This is a team that uses a ton of stunts and twists. Mm-hmm. And I think, dude, like, the way Grayson Holton moves, the feet, the hands, they both fire so fast. Putting him next to Eric Armstead and on a line with Trayvon Walker and Josh Hines-Allen, I mean, that's a four-man front that will get after just about anybody. And also, long-term, though, Eric Armstead, how much longer is he going to be a part of this team? I do think just getting a defensive tackle, pass rush presence for the future, too, kind of makes some sense. So I'm gonna go Grayson Holton there. I think it's a great scheme fit for Anthony Capanow. But let me hear your thoughts so the 32 audience can hear about Grayson Holton, because I feel like he's one of these guys that you don't see a whole lot in second round mocks, but I seem to hammer him home here at 56.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. He's a guy that probably will go in the third round, but I'm really high on him too, man. He's a little undersized, which is why he's going to go in the third round. But for anyone who wants just like a penetrating, run defender and pass rusher, this guy wins with his quickness, honestly. Yeah. So he's not going to take on blocks, he's not going to take on double teams that well, but I'm a big fan of Grayson Holton too, and I think I would consider him somewhere in this range too. So yeah, I'm high on him. I think he will go in the third round, but he is a quick football player. I really fall in love with those quick D tackles every year. Sometimes to my detriment. Sometimes there's guys I'm way too high on. But yeah, like Grayson Holton is the guy that I'm a big fan of right now in this class.
But like him and Darius Alexander, to me, it's almost like the hand speed. I just see how fast they fire the hands, and I'm like, whoa, I'm all in. And also 2 Senior Bowl guys who kicked ass too. So maybe my bias is showing from that standpoint.
Yes.
Bears at 57.
I'm going on Royston Thomas. I think they just need help. Edge, D tackle, you just need help. So I don't love the D tackle. Like Grayson Holland, it was my next D tackle, and like I said before, I think he's a third round. He's going to go in the third round. So I'll go with an edge here that I think will go in the top 50 in Royston Thomas. So like I said, the Bears just need help along the defensive line. I think Royston Thomas will provide that.
And I think they've done enough work on Austin Booker's body. Like he's just bulked up so much since he left Kansas to where I think he might be a guy that can play on early downs, and then that frees up R. Mason to be like their DPR. Mm-hmm. And oh my God, now you have 3 guys that can pin their ears back and get off the quarterback. Like that's when that defense starts getting real scary. All right, 49. I'm going to go Jeremy Bernard. I really can't tell you the last time I had a mock where he fell this far, but I'm going to go Jeremy. And like you see how Alabama used him last year, and that almost feels like a tailor-made fit for Shanahan. He's not as sexy as like Omar Cooper Jr. or Casey Concepcion after the catch, but I mean, Bama made it pretty clear. They had like one wide receiver they had full faith and confidence in to catch the football and try to win them games, and that was Jeremy Bernard. So, line him up in the backfield, use him as a Z, use him as a slot. I think you get a whole lot of versatility. And you have Mike Evans as your X. There's a little bit of overlap with like Ricky Pearsall, but I'm okay with that considering one can be the Z, one can be the slot, and this team has historically been at least 2 to 3 receivers deep. So I kind of like just adding a little bit more oof to that room. I'm gonna go Jeremy Bernard at 58.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Texans here 59. I'm taking Jadarian Price. I would not take him here. I'm not as high on Jadarian Price as a lot of people, but I think he will be a second-round pick, probably even higher than this, probably top 50 at this point. And Texans, we addressed the interior line, we addressed D-tackle, and I think we should address running back here for them too. I think, like I said, I think Jadarian Price will be a top 50 pick. So in terms of realism, I think he will go here to Houston.
I like it. Dude, have him learn for a year behind Montgomery and then cut him loose. I think you save like $7 million against the cap if you cut him after this upcoming season. Price plus Woody Marks, that's a like 1-2 punch that like you couldn't get better than that. Mike Washington Jr. would have been an interesting guy, similar but different.
Yeah.
All right, Chicago. You just took R. Mason Thomas. That's another team that like DDS. I could have seen like body type wise. That's like a Dennis Allen man crush right there. Honestly, we've gone safety, we've gone D line. You could draft a center, but like I would do like another team that were like Jake Slaughter, home run fit. I would just do that in the 4th round. Maybe late 3rd. I don't remember what 3rd round picks the Bears have. We could add a linebacker. There's another team where like Kyle Lewis, maybe. But again, kind of more of just a slot, honestly, the way I'm kind of viewing him. You know what? I'm just gonna get greedy and I'm gonna go for a 3rd receiver. Like I know why they moved on from DJ Moore, and I think Luther Burden's the perfect guy to replace that. But why not have 3 receivers deep? Like, why not? Like you keep a strength in my eyes. So it really just comes down to like, who do we want to have play the slot? Skylar Bell, kind of a home run guy to do that. But I also feel like Antonio Williams has been super underrated throughout this process and kind of forgotten about. And like for what they're going to ask, between Rome and DJ, like Antonio Williams to me fills in the gaps perfectly. So I have Skylar Bell ranked higher, but I'm not going to Antonio Williams. Also, like I'm just going to generate some conversation around Antonio Williams. He's been such an afterthought, and he's still such a good football player. Like everything he was summer scouting wise is a Josh Downs comp for me. Like he still is that football player, and the drop rate went down. So the one thing that people kind of criticized him for, he improved upon. So I'm going to go Antonio Williams, and we're just going to stay 3 receivers strong in Chicago, plus Colston Loveland, plus Cole Kmet. We're going to have options and weapons all around the field.
Love it. Yeah, I think Antonio I'm with you. I think it's very underrated in this process. I think a lot of Clemson players in this process are getting very underrated.
Yeah, sure. Maybe it's just the Clemson tax at this point.
Yeah, honestly, I think I was the Max Chadwick curse after I picked them with a national title, and they end up playing the Pinstripe Bowl. Honestly, against
you
Penn
bragged
State,
about being 2 for 2. You opened yourself up to it.
I did. I tempted the football gods right there when I was getting on my high horse right there. And my school, who I also thought Penn State make a run maybe to win a natty as well. I remember preseason I said there's 3 schools that I think are head and shoulders above everyone else, and I'd be shocked if one of these 3 schools did not win a national title.
Yep.
And it was Clemson, it was Penn State, and it was Texas. None of those 3 schools made the playoff, let alone win a national championship. So rough year for me this past year, predictions wise. Hopefully I get a lot better in 2026.
That being said, you weren't the only one on Clemson. That was a tough one to predict, considering what we thought that team
I don't know what happened with them and Penn State. It's just like the Texas one. Okay, they're young. The Texas one was a little bit more. It was like, okay, I project these guys to be really good. Clemson and Penn State, just like I just don't know what happened there.
Yeah, and Penn State's interesting too because like
it just the wheels came off for both those schools, and they didn't have the leadership to rebound from it.
Well, let me ask you as a Penn State fan, and frankly, if anybody's watching this deep in the video, you're a sicko. So might be a conversation that's just to you. Did y'all bring back Andy Kotelnicki as your OC, or is he elsewhere? Okay,
he's elsewhere.
I went into this last season being like, yeah, Kotelnicki's he's the dude. Like I love what he did at Kansas. Thought the first year at Penn State was interesting. He's going to take a step forward, and Aller's going to be the guy. But I'm almost wondering, looking back at it, if like him and Aller just like that was never going to work. But I'm kind of curious from your standpoint, your thoughts on Kotelnicki during that 2-year stint of him as your OC.
Yeah, by the way, he's back at Kansas now as the associate head coach, not even the OC, he's the associate head coach there in Kansas. I liked him a lot. I thought he did amazing stuff at Kansas. I think his offense didn't really translate as well to the Big Ten as it did in the Big 12. They also suffered from not having any receiving talent. Yeah. That's been a big weakness of Penn State for a long time. It's been wide receiver. They just can't seem to get, good talented wide receivers in there, or they just can't seem to make it work anyways.
Or they leave and they play really good football elsewhere. Harrison Wallace, Keandre.
Literally, yeah. It's just the offense. And then it's not to this level, but because I thought Aller's better than this guy, but Aller was very Christian Hackenberg to me, where it was like, he fits a certain like a pro style system. The problem was like they put him in an offense, so he's just not he's not throwing the ball downfield. Like Hackenberg never threw the ball downfield, and really a cannon of an arm. Aller's the same way. So I had scars from my childhood watching Christian Hackenberg out there, and it felt very Christian Hackenberg like, which means of course the Jets are going to take Aller probably in the second round of the draft like the Jets did with Hackenberg, and it's never He never actually played it down for them. So maybe the Jets are doomed for that one as well. But we'll see. But yeah, it was a very weird year, and hopefully we'll see what Matt Campbell can do. I personally was in the boat.
I love the Campbell hire.
I liked it too. But also teach. I'm in the boat where they shouldn't have fired Franklin for 1 year.
Okay,
like they made the semifinals last year, the year before. If you think you're a top 5 program and should be competing for a national title, I mean, look at your resources. Like you're way behind everyone else right now. So I thought Franklin, with what he was given, was doing his job, if not that more so. So I think Campbell, like best case, is going to end up like Franklin, like just being a really good head coach, always right there, but they don't have quite the resources to win it all. Now maybe I'm wrong, and maybe it changes, because I do love Matt Campbell, but I thought Franklin got shafted, honestly, by Penn State.
Well, it's not to turn this totally into a Penn State pod here, but like it's interesting because James Franklin's almost kind of like the Derek Carr of like college football head coaches, right? Like Virginia Tech's been so bad that they're like, you win 10 games every year. There's no amount of money we can give you. Please just come this way. Yeah. And now all of a sudden they're a top 25 recruiting class too, so he does what he does well. But Campbell is interesting because he's almost been that same guy in the Big 12 where it's like he's almost there. You want to see that team get up and over the hump, win the conference, and it's just feels like they're almost there. He's done such a good job developing talent. Like there have been more receivers to come from Iowa State than they have any freaking business having come out of there and be top 75 picks. It's insane.
And the one thing I'll say for Campbell that I am excited about, like if you look at just resources, like Iowa State is one of the worst programs in the Power 4 resource-wise. So he is like what he did there should not be possible. Like I'm worried about Iowa State football now that he's gone because they really are very far behind a lot of other schools resource-wise, and historically it's been one of the worst programs ever. But with him, they had their best years ever under him. So I am excited to see what he can do with a program that has top 10, top 15 resources like Penn State. Yeah. But like I said, like Penn State's a top 10, top 15 job. Franklin had them competing at a top 10, top 15 level. So I think Penn State suffered from the grass is greener this year. I think just we'll see what happens. But I personally would have given Franklin one more year. And been like, hey, okay, it was a bad year this past year, yeah, but let's just see you turn it around. I thought it was a little premature for Penn State to fire him that quickly, I thought. But
it would have been interesting to see who his OC hire would have been. Anyways, I'll leave it at that. I'll give you the Rams here. And I'm curious, especially with Ian Attra here, I just wanted to say something.
Sprinting it in. Yeah, this to me, I mean, again, I like Ian Attra a lot. I don't know if I has high on him as other people are in this class, but he's like a top 40 player for most people. I probably have him more in this, actually probably somewhere decently around this range. Yeah. But he's a right tackle. I mean, they might need a right tackle in the future with Warren McClendon there, who I thought, again, was good. Yeah. But they might take right tackle in the first round. And the fact that you get Ian Attra, who some people think is a first-round talent at 61, this is like way too far for Ian Attra to fall and the Rams to pass him up. So I'm going to take him here to the Rams. Honestly, the Patriots are probably kicking themselves and they couldn't get him at 63 overall.
Well, we took Blake Miller for them.
Oh, true. We took Blake Miller. Yeah, never mind.
So it all worked out for everyone. But that being said, Ian Attra, I think he's going to be a top 50 guy. And ultimately, I don't like if he falls to the Rams, then sure, make the pick. But I'm with you. I think they're going to, in a lot of my mocks lately, I just haven't really been doing right tackle until maybe like right outside, right before I think they have a pick at 98 or something like that. And then making it Emil Wagner, someone like that. But it's one of these things where like what they did with Alaric Jackson is exactly what they're kind of preparing themselves to do with Warren McClendon. And they actually extended Alaric Jackson off a small sample size. So if anything, they did even more for Jackson. I think and the McClendon thing, what makes the Ian Attra thing kind of interesting, if McClendon were to double down on what he did last year, he'd be getting a bag and free agency. So either way you spin it, if we're wrong and McClendon takes a step back, Ian Attra is waiting in the wings. Or if McClendon's awesome, he's going to get paid somewhere else. And Ian Attra waiting in the wings. Long way of getting back there. But yeah, if he falls to their lap at 61, spread the card in. All right, Denver Broncos. Would have been interesting if we had Stowers fall here. Linebacker could be an option still for this team, kind of a draft and develop guy, but I feel like, again, we've kind of exhausted that well. I do feel like this team could use a 3-tech somewhere. Let me see who.
Yeah, I agree. D tackles in need. I don't really know who's available.
This would be another team where, like, if they took Grayson Holton, Zach Allen gets up there in age, like that would be a really fun fit.
Keith Abney, maybe like give Riley Moss competition a little bit.
Yeah, or I just wonder, like you already have Evan Ingram on this team. You've pretty much told me you don't care about tight end blocking. Michael Trigg is like let me double check. I think he's my tight end 5 or 6, 5 at the moment. He might move up one spot. I like Claren Roush just a little bit more just because I think there's a better overall skill set. But Trigg, like, again, you have Evan Ingram on the roster. You've basically tipped your hand, and you have Adam Troutman there to block. So I almost wonder, let's have some fun. Let's go Michael Trigg.
Love it.
I think this is probably a little early and also like the off the field, he's bounced around from a couple different P4 programs. There's some character stuff to get figured out there. But that being said, like what he is as a receiver, like I'm not going to say this kid's Jimmy Graham, but if there's someone in this class that Sean Payton could get close to that realm, damn if it's not Michael Trigg. So kind of an interesting fit to partner up with that scheme.
Yeah, I like it. New England here. Ooh. So we haven't taken a D tackle here. I think I
feel
might.
Like this is your Abney spot.
Could do Abney too. Yeah. I think what I might actually do is take Dominique Orange.
Ooh.
I'm not a big fan of Dominique. I think he had a kind of a down year this year, but like I said, I think they really need help in run defense in the middle of their D line, and I didn't take it earlier. So,
sure.
Yeah. Again, I'm not a huge fan of him. I would have him go in the third round probably, but it dried up a D tackle pretty quick. We took a lot of D tackles in this 2-round mock, which I think is correct considering how good this class is. I think so. I'll go with Dominique Orange here. I think D tackle might be run defense in the middle of their D line might be their biggest need right now. So I'll take him here at 63.
And I'm kind of working on a video maybe for just like my own channel. I did one a few years ago about how slot corners were going to become a cornerstone position on defenses. And, so far, not to pat myself on the back too hard, but feels like 3 years out, that's becoming more and more right. But I'm also just thinking about like, it's a copycat league. So what's the thing the league's going to copy from Seattle? And honestly, I think what it is, it's interesting. This could be a longer video, but a few years ago it was, you need a rookie contract quarterback. Like that's the biggest cheat code to winning a Super Bowl. And then I think the narrative kind of shifted, like you got to be able to rush with 4. Like you obviously want a rookie contract quarterback, that's ideal, but you can also win with Patrick Mahomes' contract, a Super Bowl. But really, if you can rush with 4, that's the cheat code. And now I think Seattle, some of it's winning with 4, but off of that, if you can live in nickel, like how can you stay in too high and live in nickel as much as humanly possible? And part of it's having a super soldier and Eman Wari play the slot. He's basically a third linebacker. But then also the other side of it is just like the D tackle play and be able to stop the run. So I wonder if New England would be like, how do we get there? How do we live in nickel? How do we stay in 4-man fronts? Dominique Orange, he can help facilitate that. I've also heard rumors that they might trade Christian Barmore. So getting even more to your point, like Milton Williams plus Orange, skill set wise, makes a whole lot of sense. And those two guys can play next to each other. And I could see a world where like the Barmore trade, he's had the blood clots as well. I could see a world where they want to move on from him as well. So long tangent aside, any immediate thoughts on the theory of that being what the league's going to steal from Seattle while I think about what I want to do here?
I mean, Keith Abney's staring in the face right there.
Oh, yeah, Keith. Okay, cool. Keith Abney. Let's go Keith Abney. Yeah. He's also, to me, he's too good to get out of the second round. So
yeah, agreed.
Cool. Awesome. Well, man, 64 picks. Gone in just a breeze. Simple 2-hour recording. Like it's easy. Stroll through the park. But Max, I do appreciate you coming on. I'm scrolling through all the picks so everyone can see them one more time. Do you have a favorite fit, like player to team landing spot out of this?
Let's see. Let's go back to the first round real quick and see if there's anyone I really love there. I think, not to pat myself on the back or Howie Roseman, because people do that enough already, but like if Jermon McCoy really does go to Philadelphia, and he stays healthy, like that corner trio of Quinyon, DeJean, and Jermod is disgusting. And not only would it be one of the best ones in the league immediately, it's one of the best ones in the league you might have. As long as you extend all 3 of those guys, you have that for 10 plus years. So like that to me would be again, it would be like how does Harry Roseman get away with it again? Like that to me, like that's one of those picks right there. If
the falling P4, top 15 talent just falls right into his lap. It happens every year. Yeah. Well, I think honestly the teams that picked twice in the first round, I think we did really well for them. Mekhi Lemon plus Avion Terrell for the Chiefs. I mean, that's round of applause for the Jets. Denzel Boston, and then Reese. We had that discussion. Is a little bit of a projection, but still. Projection or not, him plus Boston, let's go. And then for Dallas, Dylan Thieneman and Akeem Ezador attacking, the back end and the pass rush. I feel like we kind of checked a lot of boxes for those teams with 2 first rounders. So
and the Jets
and the Browns too, Monroe Freeling and Carnell Tate. What's not
that makes the Jets and Browns. That trade at 16, I think makes perfect sense for both of them, considering you get Freeling for the Browns, get ahead of the Lions, and the Jets. The guy that I would have taken at 16 if I had to pick there at 16 would have been probably Denzel Boston, and you get him at 24. So that to me is like that trade was almost like A+ for both sides in that one right there.
Yeah, shades of the Christian Darrisaw trade a couple years for the Vikings, where it's like you could just take Darrisaw here at 17 or whatever it was, but then they got him at 23, and it's like, oh, okay, you can do that as well. Cool, awesome. One of the best left tackles in football now. But Max, dude, I cannot thank you enough for joining the program, dude. I really do appreciate you carving out some time. Obviously, we talked about you being the co-host of the college football show and everything that's going on with PFF, but where can the good people find your work?
Yeah, if you want to check it out, the PFF College Football Show on YouTube and anywhere you get your podcasts right now. Continuing a lot of draft stuff we're doing. Got a 2-round mock, actually, like we just did right here. We're doing a 2-round mock ourselves early on in the week, I think on Tuesday. And then on Friday, our top 10 corners in the draft. And then later on, next month, my favorite video that we do every year, the all-eligible mock, where we go over a mock draft with 2026 guys, 2027 guys, and even 2028 guys, if you sneak in any true freshmen from this past year. Kind of like a fun exercise to kind of say, okay, who were like the elite guys in future years, and how would they stack up if they were allowed to be in this draft? Like the NBA allows, after 1 year you can declare for the draft. If the NFL had the same rule, what would a first-round mock work? It's always a very fun exercise. It always looks hilariously stupid the very following year. It was like, oh my God, I can't believe we had that guy going that high in the mock. But it's a really fun exercise, and it kind of allows us to flex our muscles a little bit as a college football show. Kind of say, hey, we know these guys coming on the stretch. A couple of years from now, like where would Jeremiah Smith go? Where would Leonard Moore go? Julian Sayin, Dante Moore, Arch Manning, all those guys, if they were included in this draft. I'm very excited about that video, and that'll be sometime in April. I don't know when, but we're gonna do that sometime in April before the draft.
No. I love when you guys do that mock. I remember in last year's, there were a couple people who missed the plot. They didn't understand, oh, what do you mean? Why are we doing this? And it's like, because it's awesome. What do you mean? And especially with how much hype the 27 class has.
Yeah, you want me to tell you about Mendoza to the Raiders again, for the 87th time? It's just we've done already. We've done we'll probably do 20 regular mock drafts. Let's switch it up a little bit, make it a little bit interesting here.
And especially with the quarterbacks, right? Like in that mock, talking about where does Lenore Sellers and Dante Moore and Arch Manning and all these guys who could have been in this year's class that decided to go back, where do they fit in? The other thing I wanted to plug in, not to have you spill everything that you're talking about. You also do an article series kind of previewing the next year's college football season. I always love those articles, and they're good because I have an idea of who to watch during summer scouting, but sometimes you'll highlight a name for, offensive line, D-line, whatever the case may be. And it's oh, okay, well, he made their top 10 preseason rankings for corner or whatever. Let me make sure I get eyes on that guy too. So I love that article series. You guys start that up a little closer to the regular season though, right?
No, they're going out right now. I'm almost done with them right now, but I'm on linebackers, corners, and safeties. That's all I have left.
Wow.
So if you want to check those out, we're gonna do videos on them too on the channel if you want to just wait for that. But if you want to see them in article form, most of them are already live right now, and we'll see about linebackers, corners, and safeties when those will come out. But that most of them are already out right now. So if you want to check that out,
that's how deep into the 26 class I'm in. I didn't even. I love those article series, but I guess I don't pay attention to when they're dated. So that's on me. But Max, I've let you talk and I've stolen too much of your time as is. I really do appreciate you joining the show again, man. We'll get you back on hopefully post draft, man. I'd love to hear your thoughts about once we get all said and done. We've had free agency, we've had the draft. I'd love to get you on for an off-season grades video or something like that, just to let's take a whole look at this and see who really stood out this offseason.
No, definitely, TJ. That'd be awesome, man. I would appreciate that.
Sweet. Also, be sure to follow Max everywhere. His @ was right on the screen underneath his box, so definitely go give him a follow. Check out the PFF College Football Show. If you're a college football fan and not listening to that, I have questions for you. But anyways, that's going to do it for today's 2-round mock draft. Until next time, we are signing off.